on Capitol Hill, he would not have anticipated or expected that would be necessary after learning President Trump has ruled out acquiring Greenland by U.S. military force. According to Johnson, he spoke with the president multiple times over the weekend and noted that he is glad Trump is articulating the stance while meeting with leaders at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Both Johnson and Trump have cited national security reasons to thwart Russia and China as the reason for U.S. interest in acquiring Greenland. Meanwhile, President Trump says the framework of a long-term deal on Greenland is in place. Shortly after announcing the deal framework in a post on Truth Social, Trump told reporters that the deal gives the U.S. everything it needs. He went on to call it an infinite deal that would last forever. Trump has repeatedly said that the U.S. needs to take control of Greenland for national security purposes. When announcing the deal framework, he also said he will not be imposing tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect February 1st. Negotiations are resuming tomorrow with the help of a mediator to try and end the largest nursing strike in New York City history. Sarah Lee Kessler reports.
15,000 nurses have been protesting and picketing since January 12th outside 3 major private hospitals: New York Presbyterian, Mount Sinai, and Montefiore.
They have us outside striking when we want to be inside the hospital taking care of our patients.
Traveling nurses are filling in while the hospital's regular nurses demand lower nurse-patient staffing ratios, guaranteed health care benefits, and better protection from workplace violence.
Patients are your family.
The hospitals and nurses union will resume face-to-face talks Thursday for the first time in nearly a week.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted. It works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Dependable Lock Service is your source for replacement car keys, custom safes from Liberty Safe, and so many more lock and key services. With over 30 years of experience in lock and key industry, there's nothing Dependable Lock Service can't do for you. Whether you're looking for duplicate automotive chip keys, rekeying commercial and residential locks, or custom safe building, we've got you covered. Call 603-886-0559. Nashua's Dependable Lock Services, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
The sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning. I'm Ed Mullen from Nashua Aerial Advertising. There's no better way to advertise your business and or message than high in the sky. How can you make your advertising budget work for you? By putting your ads up where they'll stand out. The sky is an uncluttered, impressive venue. You can put your message over a region or location to target your desired demographic. Put your ads where they're needed. We provide coverage over communities through Merrimack Valley, Greater Nashua, Manchester, Lowell, and points throughout South Central New Hampshire and North Central Mass. Summertime beaches, sporting events, races, fairs, and festivals are all ready-made for banner telling. For more information, please visit us online at NashuaAerialAdvertising.com. And remember, the sky's not the limit, it's just the beginning.
Most social platforms throttle your reach, track your behavior, and decide what you're allowed to see. Audax does none of that. Here, you control the algorithm. Your posts go where you send them, without shadow bans, filters, or hidden limits. Audax doesn't spy on your private life. No one listens to your calls. No one monitors your searches. And because we don't take money from corporate advertisers, no one is manipulating what you see or how you use the platform. Audax is built for patriots who want a place to organize, speak freely, and push back against the issues facing America without interference. Freedom isn't free, but it's worth every penny. Join the Rise for Liberty project at audax1.com and take back your voice.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes?
At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to truckersunitedforfreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong. Mammoth Nation.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grover.
Well, good evening, folks. How's it going? Seemed kind of quiet there, like we're down to the wire last second there. Get ready in the studio to make this thing happen. John, and we got a little studio action. What's happening?
Oh, not too much, Chris. You know, same old here in New Hampshire. It is your lead tonight. I don't know if you got the memo or not, but
I did not. I haven't turned on my on-air light. You'll have to excuse me for 30 seconds.
Oh no,
folks! As the Colonel turns on his on-air light there for the streaming audience, and he steps away, I'll fill in for just a moment as Colonel Chris White puts back on his headphones and takes back over.
Not quite 30 seconds, eh? That's pretty fast. Faster than a speeding bullet. Well, welcome back to the program, folks. If it's Wednesday night, it's Common Sense Conservatives right here at WSMN. Out of our studios in Nashua, New Hampshire, with my co-host John Grosvenor, and out of East Tennessee, God's country, Sergeant First Class retired Todd McKinley, looking like Bear Grylls tonight. What's going on, Todd?
Well, I'm letting it grow for a few weeks, trying to get like you. See what I like. I don't know. It's gonna take some convincing to make me keep it though.
Yours has got a little color left in it. Mine's kind of gone Santa.
Yeah. I love it though. It's good though. It's a signature look for you at this point.
It definitely is. I keep trying to shave it, and every time I threaten to shave it, people freak out. So go ahead.
I imagine, you get recognized in places you go, especially say South Africa. I wonder if they would recognize if you shave, because a lot of them probably got to know you cleanly shaven as a active duty colonel, though. I imagine, right?
Well, not in South Africa, no, but we've got a few people in South Africa, not many, but definitely one thing's for sure. The beard definitely made it possible for me to be recognized in Rochester, New York this week.
All right. This is a story we want to hear about, though, by the way.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit later on. Let's talk about the actual news in the world first. So the art of the deal, I'd recommend that the leaders of leftist countries in Europe start reading this book sometime soon. The Europeans went bat crap crazy over Trump's threats for Greenland. Last year, when asked the question, what is Trump up to? My answer is always NATO and Denmark have not been living up to their defense obligations in Greenland. Greenland is part of North America. It's on the Arctic approaches to our territory and threatens us. I didn't even discuss the Golden Dome because I didn't know that it was a matter of public discourse. Thought it was still classified, but apparently Trump has let the cat out of the bag that we need Greenland for the Golden Dome anti-missile system, kind of replicating the Iron Dome that the Israelis have. So I said Trump is trying to get them to live up to what they wanted. When he threatened tariffs against Denmark a year ago, right after coming to office, over Greenland, Denmark stepped up the plate and said, we'll spend $890 million and buy 3 frigates and build a naval base in Greenland. Well, that was a start. Apparently not enough for Trump. So they're all losing their mind. The markets are freaking out. They got Dick Cheney's cardiologist acting like he's a psychologist and a shrink, claiming that we need to take a look at the mental health of Donald Trump, as if that idiot knows anything. He's not a very good cardiologist, or maybe he's a very good one because he kept Cheney alive far longer.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. 13 stents and 95 heart valves later, So maybe he's a very good cardiologist, but he's certainly not a psychologist. Anyway, Trump threatened to take Greenland by force if necessary. Even sent a text message to the Prime Minister of Norway saying, since your crappy country didn't give you the Nobel Peace Prize, I don't care about peace anymore. And everybody fell for it. So at Davos today, while the European Union is busy deciding not to go forward with the trade deal that they negotiated with the U.S., they all got to look like a bunch of idiots because Trump walked out of his speech and moments later said, "Yeah, I reached a deal with the Secretary General of NATO, and we've reached a framework for Greenland. It's going to be great for America. It's great for NATO, and it's going to last forever." They look like a bunch of idiots, Todd. They really do.
Oh, absolutely. They look like a bunch of fools. They're going to lose their mind anytime he talks about it. What's funny is if Joe Biden or a Democrat, if Hillary got into office and she said, "Hey, we're going to take it or we're going to buy it," they'd be all happy about it. Yeah, absolutely. We can't spend enough money for Denmark or for Greenland. Sorry, we can't spend enough money for it. But Trump wants it. It's like, it's hands off at this point. It's a red line, if you will.
Well, let's just live in a different world, an alternate timeline, okay? And the world is Kamala's the president. Well, we need Greenland for the strategic minerals because of climate change. We need access to them so we can build electric vehicles. Therefore, we have to acquire Greenland. Oh, yes, that's brilliant. Oh, we love it. Wonderful, wonderful. But if Trump were to say we want it for strategic minerals, John, it'd be like, oh, see these greedy, dirty capitalists. Yeah. You see how that script gets flipped around there, John?
Yeah, there was a Denmark circular or magazine or whatever it is that was trying to paint that picture, saying that it was Ronald Lauder, Geir Veste Lauder, was meeting with Trump in 2018, claiming we need to buy Greenland because he wanted to capitalize off the mining over there. It's just propagated BS when we know it.
Yeah, and that's the point. But the funny thing is, the irony is that they'll just flip the script around. I mean, if it was Tea Party patriots in the streets protesting against ICE, peacefully standing down the street, they would paint them as racist and anti-American, even though they're not interfering with ICE operations. When Obama deported 2.6 million illegals, when he tore apart families and put children sleeping in tents on the Texas border, they didn't even cover it. Instead, when Trump became president, they falsely used footage from 3 years prior to blame it on Trump and say Trump was putting kids into prisons. It's look, if you get pulled over and arrested for DUI with your children in the car, they go into foster care and you go to jail.
Yep.
It's no different than illegal aliens. And they're trying they're breaking families apart. Yes, they're breaking apart because criminals invade the country. But the narrative they like to run, and the thing that gets me, gentlemen, is just how stupid so much the public is. They're really not very bright when it comes to this situation. People are sheeple, and they really can be led by the nose, Todd.
Oh, they absolutely can, for sure. And it's if it's a Republican or Trump, it's the balls to the wall. Pardon my language there. No holds bar. Go after him at all costs. But a Democrat proposes the same exact thing, says it maybe in a little different language, but proposes the same thing. All for it, 100%. Rah rah rah. We love America again.
Yeah, no, it's exactly it's the case. If you go back, I showed the footage of Barack Hussein Obama talking about criminal alien invaders. If you violate our sovereignty, you will be deported. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. Hillary Clinton say, get rid of the illegals. Mitch McConnell, same thing. Of course, he's Republican or in the name anyway. And of course, Chuck Schumer all saying the same thing. Yet today they stand with protecting murderers, rapists, bank robbers, evil people. And here's the thing, slide into the Minneapolis. We'll come back to Greenland, but slide into Minneapolis. John, if only the Minneapolis law enforcement officials had turned over 1,365 wanted, convicted, not accused, but convicted felons to ICE on the detainers that they gave them. Imagine 1,365 illegal murderers, rapists, bank robbers, pedos in the city of Minneapolis, St. Paul. And they put 472 of them back on the streets. I don't know what happened to the rest of them if they still have in custody, but they did not give them the federal government. Had they given the federal government, there'd be no ICE agents there right now.
No, well, the thing about it is they're trying to gain political advantage off this whole circumstance. Look at the rest of the country. ICE isn't just working in Minneapolis, right? They're working all over the place. They're working in Texas. They're working in Florida. They're working in Arizona. They're working in all different countries or states, but you don't see the same effects happening in those states. You don't see all this aggression happening. You don't see all this talk about ICE and backlash about ICE, but Walz and Jacob Frey are trying to politicize this position, appeal to people. What is it called? Emotional appeal. And they're rallying these people. When Tim Walz was sitting there talking about how terrible ICE is and stuff, he's trying to tap into their emotions and rally them against ICE. He's trying to politicize his position here. He's using it. What's his name? Chief Brian O'Hare, getting out there saying, hey, we work very hard on de-escalation, and we trained for this, and obviously the feds never. Yes, they did. There's actually a law was passed about de-escalation. There was monies given forth for grant money so police can train for de-escalation from the federal government. This is an actual thing. But when you tap into people's emotions and you start going aggressively at them with whistles, throwing snowballs at them, now carrying guns, they're not arresting these people for carrying guns and being threatening to ICE. They're amplifying this. They're escalating this on purpose, trying to use it to their own advantages politically.
Well, there's a word for this. It's called insurrection.
Yeah, they're actually that's what it's coming down to. And Trump was talking about it.
And the stolen valor governor of Minnesota and Small Fry Jacob are the primary instigators spreading seditious commentary. But it goes beyond that now. You see an archdiocese Catholic bishop is telling the military not to obey orders if we are told to go to Greenland. I mean, the Catholic Church really needs to butt out. I've had my fill of the leadership of the Catholic Church. You know, if I'll tell you what, it wouldn't take much to put a Delta team into the Vatican City and take over that little acreage.
Yeah, right. But well, think about it. The Vatican, or the church, if you will, the Catholic Church, especially the church in Rome, has had their hand on so many horrible things throughout our history. You go back to the Holy Roman Empire, even before then. I mean, for crying out loud. And then the Inquisition, the pedos that are there, the protection of those people, the Nazis, the rat line, so many other things. It's like you need to take a few centuries and just be silent for a while. That's my thought.
Well, I think it's a fair thought. But I mean, what is with these liberation theology Catholics? They have undermined the church. It's supposed to be about faith, not about your politics to destroy America. The Catholic Church, the church itself, not Catholics themselves, but the Catholic Church, the Episcopal Church, and a host of other religious institutions have allied themselves as Islamofascists and with others on the political left to destroy America. That seems to be their goal here, John. They seem to be hell-bent on destroying America and its values. And I don't know why they hate America so much. The world is safe in large measure because of America's actions, despite the lies of the media and of academics who've forgotten that we saved the world in World War I. We saved the world in World War II. We protected Western Europe. We protected the world. We spread all kinds of wonderful things like science and medicine are all around the planet, technology. And these people hate America. They are sick and twisted.
It could be because we arrest their pedophiles and that they move around, right? That they try to hide. No, I think it's a power struggle. It's always been a power struggle between the Catholic Church and governments. That's why the Protestant churches had arisen, right?
Yeah.
What was the German one? I can't think of it. But the
Lutheran? Is it Lutheran?
Yeah.
Lutheran.
That was prior, and then you had the Episcopalian and stuff through the King of England. What was it, Henry VIII? Because they wouldn't give him a divorce, and he's like, well, you know what? I'm tired of you guys trying to boss me around. Here's your sign. Threw up a middle finger and decided to create his own church.
And put himself as head of church too. So basically he's saying, I talk to God every day, do what I say. I don't like that. I'm sorry. I don't really look at the Church of England. Yeah, I don't look at the Church of England as being some legitimate Christian church if you're putting a human being like that in charge because you want a divorce. Sorry.
Honestly, I kind of like the Episcopalian Church myself for the most part, but for what I know of it, I'm not a big time church goer, to be honest. I call myself a Christian, but I'm not big on church.
I get what you're saying.
I can't sit in the pew and listen to how I'm going to hell again.
John Schoenberger says here, liberal denominations are motivated by, quote, liberation theology, end quote, and the social gospel. John Schoenberger, a lifelong chaplain and a prison chaplain here in Tennessee, 40-some years of experience. So whenever he says it, I tend to listen.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, this liberation ideology stuff is sick and twisted if you follow it. It's what's motivated all kinds of carnage and misery across Latin America. And the Catholic Church, which of course is deeply entrenched in Latin America, that's where this crap comes from. The Argentine Pope brought this garbage into the church. Yeah, it's really frightening. And
hopefully hopefully the Chicago Pope will fix some of that. I don't know. We'll see.
I think he's part of the problem, to be honest.
Okay.
I think
very likely.
I think the Catholic Church kind of leans very liberal, and these liberal ideologies would be great if they actually work, but they don't. The problem is they want to bring communism or socialism / communism or fascism, whatever they want. it's hard to determine anymore. I noticed lately, because maybe it's an election year, that some of these politicians are trying to align a little bit more to the right. Kind of like Maggie Goodlander yesterday was bragging about, well, I just passed signed in a bipartisan bill. Well, these bills were submitted or sponsored by Republicans, one out of Texas, and for small business. And so I think they're trying to align now for votes this year. But all in all, I think, these leftists, they got these ideas that we're going to live in this utopic society. But the problem is the utopic society they want to create always gets deterred by socialist dictators. And we've seen that in Venezuela, did we not?
Of course.
Well, we definitely saw something in Venezuela that gets your attention. That's for sure. It was.
Well, they used to be a republic once. They used to be a democracy, and once they went socialist and they got their dictator, and it took somebody like Trump with the kahunas to go down there and say no and swatted them out of there.
Well, Trump is really shaping the world, from the elimination of DEI to the Doge that didn't quite pan out the way he thought it was going to do, to the big, beautiful bill and the permanent status of the 2017 tax cuts. No taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security, no taxes on overtime, completely reshaping everything. You want to talk about a disruptor, Todd?
Yes.
In his first year in office, that's what Donald Trump has been.
Yeah, they had a press conference the other day, and it's on January 20th, obviously, and they said 365 accomplishments in 365 days, and went through a list of his top accomplishments, and pretty amazing for a first-year president. Mind you, it's his second term, but I mean, he had 4 years for Joe Biden to destroy it and the left to destroy it, so he had a lot to work on coming back just to get back to the point where he left it whenever he left office the first time.
No, absolutely. It's fascinating to see how quickly this has moved. We're just past the 1-year anniversary tonight. We just missed it since his inauguration, and I mean, the left has got to be punch drunk. If it wasn't for the joy they're having over the horrors happening in Minneapolis, what would they be grasping onto at this stage, Todd?
Don Lemon maybe invading a church illegally, perhaps. Don Lemon.
Oh my goodness! So it is the ignorance and stupidity. That's the thing. I like on my program when I have things that go or post online, and I leave comments up. Unlike a lot of people who don't let people comment, but you get these leftists that really can't string two thoughts together, and it's almost fun, going in there and responding to their comments, because
you spun it up all over again.
They're just so stupid. I mean, they're so stupid. They never come with any facts. It's just emotion and ad hominem attacks, and there's nothing to what they say. I mean, the last time I met intelligent leftists, it's been quite a while, but it has been some time. They just really, really have nothing. They really cannot string an argument together. So listening to Don Lemonhead, I heard it on the radio first, and then I saw the video. I heard him say, hey, don't push me. Then I watched the video. Nobody's pushing him. He's just standing there. He's just trying to fake outrage. As they invade a church, they violate a federal law introduced by a Democratic Congress, approved by Democratic Congress, signed by Democratic President Clinton, so that the people can murder children in the womb without being interfered with outside an abortion clinic, making it a federal felony. And then they used a SWAT raid to go and take down a Pennsylvania resident in front of his family on a Sunday, in front of his 10 children, and then sentenced him to 3.5 years in the federal penitentiary because his son was being beaten by one of these leftist protesters, and he intervened to protect his son. And they misused the law to put him in prison, to make a statement to terrify people trying to protest against abortions. They used that law. Well, in order to keep it constitutional, because it was specifically targeted for abortion, it would have been unconstitutional, they added houses of worship in there. So if you do that, if you seek to intimidate somebody or prevent someone from a house of worship, it's a federal felony offense. That is exactly what Don Lemon did. His own words sentenced him. He's hung himself by his own, hoisted by his own petard. He said, we're here to make people uncomfortable. That's intimidation. I want a SWAT team right now at his residence, perp walk, arrest him, lock him up without bond because he's a dangerous criminal who threatens the livelihood or the safety and well-being of those in houses of worship. What do you say, Todd?
No, I would agree with you 100%. And I watched a couple of his videos this afternoon. It was other people comment on his videos, but you could see he was visibly scared that something's going to happen to him soon. So, and as it should, he should go down for a lot of the things he's incited over the past several years as a host on CNN, the lies he's perpetrated, the violence that he advocated for, and basically gave a wink and a nod to, saying it was mostly peaceful whenever obviously people were getting hurt, killed, and their property destroyed, etc. Definitely violent people that he covered for.
Absolutely. No, this is, and they were racist too. I heard some of the comments from them. We're here for the white supremacists. What white supremacists? It's a church.
No,
these people are really beyond the pale. It's time that government starts getting control of the situation. The fact that it's gone on as long as it has is outrageous. Another case today in California where one of these criminal alien invaders sought to run down an ICE agent with their vehicle. They got shot at. They weren't hit. They tried to flee on foot and they were captured. This is out of control.
Absolutely. And yeah, I saw for the California governor who also was in Davos and didn't go over too well for him. He tried to make a splash and he kind of came up with a thud, I think, from some of the comments I've heard.
Well, Gavin Newsom and thuds go well together. The guy's
right.
always...
he thought his weird California liberalism would win over the European liberals. And it's like, you may speak the same language, but you're on a different page here, folks.
Well, you did notice Larry Fink is more aligned to Trump now. In fact, didn't he make statements about they've really neglected the United States? They really overlooked the United States, especially the workers of the United States, the labor markets. And I mean, he really recognized a lot about how they kind of shunned us and aligned more with Trump. So then you've got somebody like Newsom going in there trying to push his liberal agenda on them. And they're going, well, wait a minute. This is not where we're going now. This is not the direction we're going.
No. And of course he flew in on a private jet as well. So, I mean, so much for climate change, right?
Oh, that doesn't count for important people like Newsom.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Let me take
That's
that
only
back.
you and me.
I retract that. Hopefully they won't invade my home here anytime soon and protest me in my living room.
Yeah, you got to walk more, Todd. You're not allowed to burn gasoline.
That's true. Sorry, John.
I don't care if it's a mile waist deep in the snow both ways. Uphill.
Oh, speaking of snow, if you're in Northeast Tennessee, big snowstorm coming this weekend. So be very aware of that. Be very careful. If you don't have to go out, do not go out, folks. It's going to get deep.
I think that's going to hit the whole East Coast because we got the same snow warning here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, I think so. It's hitting Oklahoma and coming up, and I think it's going to sweep north. So watch out, Colonel.
Yeah, no, it's definitely coming, and it's going to be an ice storm in Texas. It's going to hit down in Texas. It's going to be an ice storm.
That'll shut it down pretty quick out there.
I've seen roads get shut down just north of where Chris lives up there in Wilkes-Barre and that area, Scranton. They shut them roads down quick, man. They block them with snow piles and stuff so people can't get on the interstates.
I remember when I lived at...
They block the roads with snow piles. It sounds like the people in Minneapolis outside the ICE headquarters.
Yeah, right. I remember when I stationed down in Texas and whenever it snowed, it's like, I had my truck, I could drive in it. They're like, how can you drive in that? I'm like, I'm from Northeast Tennessee. We get snow there. We have mountains and snow. We know how to drive, so we're not like Texas where it's like snows. It's like immediately stop or spin out or something.
Peter says it's hitting Southern Ontario too.
Ooh, baby.
Peter's my friend from Canada.
Well, we had snow here. As I drove up to Rochester, I went through several snow squalls. Didn't really count anything. But then as I pulled up to Rochester, about 6 miles out, the snow started coming down. The traffic slowed down to crawl, and snow plows were out on the road. And it snowed for about 3 or 4 hours. I know we had several inches. The roads were pretty sloppy. If you want to fishtail and pull 360s, it was a good night for that. He says,
I used to love when I open parking lots. That's fun.
It doesn't work as well with 4-wheel drive, or with all-wheel drive.
It does
all-wheel drive, it's not. When you got 2 wheels, it's a lot.
With a handled emergency brake, that's so much fun.
That's great. Exactly. That's a great learning curve for teenagers and stuff.
True.
Open parking lot, nothing to hit, and they can learn how to counter steer.
Learn how to correct, and that's where my dad he took us to our high school, and we learned how to correct. Learn what happens when you overcorrect. Oh, absolutely, learned a lot there.
I think I just heard every parent in the world just scream at me going, stop encouraging my kids.
No, if you got a cool dad, he's going to do that. Yeah.
But the problem is you see these people that have experience and then they steer, they start to slide and they steer the other direction and they spin right into it instead of turning the wheels into the spin. They don't understand. And then they just spin out of control and trash their cars or hit other people because they don't know how to drive. They don't have that experience. Yeah, no, I'm accustomed to having the handbrake over here with the right hand, pulling that thing up and using it from Europe and Japanese cars.
Yeah.
It's now, unfortunately, my Chrysler doesn't work that way. It's got a button that automatically, you just pull out and it engages. It doesn't work that way. So, but it's all-wheel drive, so it works really well. Handled the snow very well up there in Rochester.
That was a nice thing about old cars, man. You had control. So, like in the snow and stuff, you feathered the fuel pedal to get traction and things.
Yeah,
like
right.
That. You pumped the brakes to so you didn't just skid, right?
Yeah,
to keep them skid.
Yeah,
and like he was talking about the handbrake, you used to do that. You could pull it, put the tension on it that you wanted when you wanted the power slide or whatever. Yeah.
Well, do you know that, guys? The thing, the safety invention for automobiles that I detest the most. Take a guess what it might be.
Wow, there's so many things anymore.
You know,
Well, we're talking about sliding.
Yeah, it
on
can't
ice.
be anti-lock brakes, is it?
Yeah, it's
No,
ABS. I hate
Is
ABS.
it really?
I do, because ABS interferes with my ability to use my brakes properly on black ice and on ice and on snow. And
See,
it comes in at the worst times. I have a little hill near my house. I go down and it gets very slick. And when I go down there, if it's just started to rain, you know how on the roads because of oil and such, it's very slick and just a little bit of rain. A lot of times the damn anti-lock brakes will kick in and I wind up going much further than I would have if I'd been able to tap and control the brakes on my own. It really irritates me.
Yeah.
And then you get that grinding like
It pushes back, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. No, never. Look, I get it. I understand it's probably saved a lot of lives, but for me, as an old school person, learn how to drive like you're supposed to learn how to drive. It's just frustrating.
Disc brakes back in the day, right?
That's right, man.
See,
check your points, check your plugs.
As a truck driver, we've got all sorts of control devices. We got anti-rollover devices and all sorts of stuff. Brakes automatically come on. You know, you'd be going into a curve. I've gone to these curves so many times. It's incredible. Can't even count the number of times, right? So you're gauging it, you're preparing for it, and all of a sudden the brakes come on, lights start flashing, or these lane mitigation devices. You know what it's like to be driving down the road, and every time the sensor catches the right shoulder, the right line, you hear
right.
Truck
I
drivers like to kind of buffer a little bit, hang to the right. And all they got to do is listen to that thing going bong all darn night.
Well, look, I got where you're coming from. That can be very frustrating, but you know, truck driving has become a much easier business. I don't know if you realize that, John. I mean, if you go to California, you buy a box of Cracker Jacks, and inside is a CDL. It's your choice of prize.
Right. You just put your photo on it and you're good to go, right?
That used to be a thing where you get your license from a Cracker Jack box. You remember that?
That's the joke there. Yeah, old school. That's definitely people showing their age, either boomers or, you know, just around that age. If they know
Gen
that
Xers
joke.
are starting to climb up that hill. You know,
I said around that age, boomers. Remember, I get lumped into both categories because I'm like the last week of baby boomers. So people try to claim me both generations. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. With all these things in cars, and that's interesting. But let's get back to Greenland. So I want to hear your thoughts, Todd. What do you think it's all about for Trump? I mean, maybe his hand has been shown now that he's got an agreement, and it appears it's not disclosed. It says the framework, but the framework is with Mark Rutte, the former Dutch prime minister, who's now the Secretary General of NATO. And if the agreement's with them and not necessarily with Denmark, it would seem to imply this is a defense agreement rather than taking over Greenland, which would augur well from my analysis last year and ever since then that Trump just wants the security. So do you think it's about that? Do you think it's about the rare earth elements? Do you think it's about Trump just wants to acquire the biggest piece of real estate ever as a land developer?
Right. No, you know, if he could get it, I think he would gladly take it. But I think it was more about the defense, concessions is what he was going after. Like you said, I think last year on the show, you talked about it. And I think that's probably the biggest piece of what he's looking for. But if we end up getting it, you know, I think we would get it at a bargain. He offered, I forget how many billion for it. And he said he would also pay each person so many thousands of dollars each, like $100,000.
That's all.
You know, something like that. I'm like, if I'm living there in Greenland and you offer me $100,000, hey, by all means, I don't care who's in charge, you know, leave me alone.
It seems like the United States has got a lot greater strengths than Denmark does. And it seems to me that it might open up avenues for commerce for Greenland. The only great Greenland I heard has about this is they just want their sovereignty. They want to be their own nation. That's what they've been striving for a lot of years. So that's the deterrent. Other than that, I don't think they would care if it was Denmark or the United States.
Yeah, I think they would better get on board with one of them, or you know, Russia may decide to maneuver in there at some point if they ever get their legs back under them after they get out of Kiev and Ukraine, etc.
Well,
you know,
they still fall under NATO through Denmark, so I don't think Russia's going to take them by force. China's not going to take them by force, so it would be the bigger and better deal, right? Who offers them the better deal for mineral rights and stuff like that? China, from my understanding, has secured about 80% of the rights to minerals in the world. Through the United Nations, through treaty.
As long as NATO's strong, I think everything's fine as far as Russia coming in there. But Europe keeps buying, you know, gas and oil, etc., from Russia, funding their war on Europe, which is kind of odd, right?
It is. There's a lot of contradiction there. But the Europeans, we can never accuse them making sense. After all, they led us into two horrible, horrific conflagrations in the 20th century, which cost the lives of millions.
Well, they're responsible for multiple world wars, for crying out loud. Not just World War I and II. You know, the French and Indian War, as we call it. That's one of them.
Napoleonic
Many
Wars.
other global conflicts. Many other global conflicts. You know, and these are, you know, conflicts of what do you call it? Seizing power, if you will, of colonialism, of, you know, getting the minerals, etc., and subjugating people. That's what Europeans have done for centuries. And now here we are. You know, America wants peace generally with the world. And all of a sudden we're called warmongers. It's like, no, I'm sorry. We go in generally and finish wars that you've started on many occasions.
So when Trump initiated his statements about wanting to take Greenland, he did say he wanted the mineral rights. He wanted to get in there and mine minerals. He said we need them. There's a lot of money there for him, and he was talking about sharing the wealth with Greenland. It wasn't like he was talking about, hey, we're just going to take it all for ourselves, strip your land, and leave you with the mess. He was talking
make
about
a lot
sharing
of
the
money
wealth.
off of it.
Yes.
And it's better than having Russia or China or some other country coming in there and stripping things out there the way that they do it. They would just destroy, you know, any sort of you know, wildlife, etc. They don't have a care, you know, destroying wildlife or, you know, say water shelves, if you will, or you know, this fresh water, etc. They don't care about that. They just want the minerals and the resources and move on. Be damned. You know, the population and be damned, etc.
Chris, did you have something you're? Yeah.
I was going to say, speaking of colonization, hold that thought. Folks, you're listening to Common Sense Conservatives every Wednesday night on WSMN out in Nashua, New Hampshire, 1590 on your AM dial and 95.3 on your FM dial with my co-host, Todd McKinley in East Tennessee and John Grosvenor in the studios in Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm Chris Wyatt in Central Pennsylvania. And we talk about issues that matter to America and, frankly, to the world in many respects. We reach out and talk a little bit about the world, but mostly about things in America. And we do so from a common sense perspective. Doesn't mean we're always right, but, you know, we're mostly right, if not all the time, darn near all the time. And tonight we're talking about some crazy stuff here. And speaking of colonization, the Kingdom of Denmark, as it's officially known, Kingdom of Denmark, a throwback to another era, medieval era. The Kingdom of Denmark is asserting its sovereignty over its colonial possession, Greenland. That's what's really going on here. As anyone mentioned that, I think I'm the only journalist on the planet that keeps pointing out that it's a colony, that it's a protectorate that they own. And the only claim to have it is that they landed a ship there 200 years ago. They didn't settle it. It wasn't settled by the Danes. It was settled by Norsemen from Iceland. Right. Who left, and the Inuit were the ones who stayed behind, and then the Danes came later on. So the fact the fact that a colonial empire is hanging on to its last vestiges of empire is lost on everyone because the Danes are so nice and cuddly, except they're not.
No, right. And it's funny as the names actually come from to throw people off. You know, Greenland, obviously a lot of snow. They wanted people to not to go. They wanted people to go there, find out there's a lot of snow, whereas Iceland, there's a lot of green, right? Greenery.
Well, Eric the Red, right? He went back to Iceland and told everybody how green it was and rich it was and stuff like that because he couldn't stay in Iceland because he had killed some people or something. He was ostracized. So so he had to convince people, basically lied to them, say, follow me, I'll lead you. And to my understanding, quite a few of them perished in the travel trying to get there.
I think there were 23 boats that went, and 9 of them sank on the way, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I think about 14 of them made it there, something like that. Anyway, they got to Greenland, as you said, Eric the Red. But Greenland was initially populated by the Dorset people, who are now extinct. They're gone. They were gone for a long period of time. Then the Icelanders came and settled in 3 different communities: the Eastern, Western, and the Middle settlement. And at the same time, shortly after that, the Inuit, who now are the main population, came across from Baffin Bay and Baffin Island over into the north part and worked their way down the coast, and eventually met up with the Vikings. The Vikings later on, because of the mini ice age, they couldn't raise their crops anymore. They didn't adapt very well, and things were bleak. So they either died off or went back to Iceland at some stage and pretty much abandoned the island completely. So if it hadn't been for the Icelandic sagas, we might not even know about their settlement, except finding a few stone houses that remain in Greenland today. But the Danes came along at some point and they colonized, and they're still there as a colonial power. And that seems to be lost on everybody. How about Greenland being independent? I'm for them being independent.
So what do you mean by independent? You think they should be their own country?
Absolutely. I think they should be, so it's not the only colonial possession. Denmark has another colonial possession. It's called the Faroe Islands, which most people are unaware of.
Right. I can't see why they couldn't be their own country, other than the fact they're only 57,000 people strong. They still might have certain dependencies, but they can do that through treaties, right? I mean, so like say Trump wants to be in there to do the mining and the Golden Dome and things like that as a nation, they can make treaties with Trump for that.
Well, I mean, the population of San Marino is even less. It's only 34,000 people. It's a country. The population of many little Caribbean island countries is pretty small.
And all the principalities in Europe that still are countries, right? Monaco is one of them, for example.
But do these people have an ability to create their own economy and be self-sufficient, or are they reliant on another nation to subsidize their existence?
Well, there's nothing there they're not going to survive. The numbers are in. That's why 1/3 of the population lives in Denmark.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's not a whole lot in Greenland as far as, they do a lot of fishing and things like that.
Yeah.
That was one of the concerns too, is if they, what was it? They had some concerns about people moving in and taking over their waters and stuff and out fishing them and losing probably one of their only major resources.
Right. Big fishing companies coming in there. It's what they want to keep out.
Somebody here is declaring 51st state.
And no. If it became U.S., it would be a territory. That's it. It would be a territory like Puerto Rico or the Marshall Islands. It would not be a state. It isn't sufficient for a state. There's more people in my backyard right now than there are in Greenland.
So do you think maybe the push for ownership over Greenland is control over regulations and legislation as far as mining and things like that go? Whereas if they have their independence and sovereignty, they can dictate that.
So I wavered a little bit on what the goal was based on Trump's behavior this past week. I'm like, maybe I was wrong in my assessment. I have to relook at this. Let me wait and see. But given what happened today, I go back to I stick with my original assessment, which I never abandoned, that this is all about geopolitical security. When Trump mentioned the Golden Dome, for me, that kind of sealed why he needed Greenland. The terrestrial places where we need to place the Golden Dome for it to be effective, covering all of North America, Greenland is absolutely essential to that. So it doesn't surprise me at all. And you can't simply put Golden Dome defenses out there and then leave them unprotected. I mean, all it would take is a couple Russian subs to pull up next to the coast, a couple Zodiacs and guys getting out there and paddling over to shore to destroy the Golden Dome stations on the shores of Greenland, and the whole system would collapse. So you have to have some sort of presence there, perpetual presence, in order to protect those things. You can't simply put them out there like remote sensors, like remotely placed battlefield sensors. So I understood that, but now that we've got some sort of framework agreement with NATO, I'm 100% convinced this is really about security. But Trump always goes all in. He'll threaten the worst thing, and his negotiating position is all in. I mean, look what he did with Colombia last year. It was crazy.
I think Trump's strategies are, let's say something really huge, really outlandish, and get people worked up. And we've seen it. They go out there and protest. You got people going from Denmark to Greenland to protest in the street. No, we got, excuse me, Peter, if you're still here, but we've got Mark Carney rallying against the United States, saying, I will go to war with the United States if I have to, because they are an allied NATO member, and so on and so forth. And what they do is he's got them so emotionally worked up, they tire themselves out. So when the dust finally settles, he says, okay, now let's talk about it. It's kind of like he makes the deal and says, see, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah, this is what I really wanted over here. And they'll gladly give it up to him, I think. You know what I mean? It's like, that's all you
makes
want?
it an easier deal in the long run.
There you go. We all get something.
Let's contrast the art of the deal, the brilliant negotiator, with the dumbest politician in North America. That would have to be, no, it's not Eric Swalwell, Fang Fang's boyfriend. It's actually Mark Carney. Did you see the deal he worked out with the Chinese? Do you know the details of the deal, John? Did you see what the deal was?
I do not know the details. I was astounded to see. I know Carney wanted to position, pivot away from the United States, and they want to diversify because they largely relied on the United States. Lesson learned from Trump. But I was surprised his go-to was China, and I did not look at the deal. No.
So here's the highlight of the deal. China imposes 85% tariffs on Canadian canola oil. Okay. So his big win is he got it lowered from 85% to 15%. Okay, that's a win. But how many liters of canola oil does Canada ship to China, and how many could they possibly buy? Because a liter bottle of canola oil runs $7 to $9, depending where you buy it at. Okay. Now, in exchange, he took the 100% tariffs, which effectively kept Chinese electric vehicles out of Canada, lowered it to 6.1%. So an electric vehicle, which costs an average of $50,000, now has a 6.1% tariff. In other words, $3,000 Canadian dollars, as opposed to $6,000 is what it was before. I'm sorry, not $6,000. Yeah, it used to be. It used to be if it's a $50,000 car, it was a $50,000 tariff, 100%. So the $50,000 tariff revenue the Canadians were getting now is reduced to just $3,000. Their country will be flooded with 49,000 garbage Chinese electric vehicles, and it will take 165 million liters of canola oil just to begin to even match the revenue. It's insane. So you're going to 6%. I mean, at least you could have got the canola oil down to 6% too. Not, you give the EVs to 6%.
Wow.
What kind of negotiator is this? I mean, it's not like he said, okay, we'll ship Canadian cars to China and we'll get 15% tariff. No, it's canola oil. It's stupid people.
You can't negotiate from a point in which you do not hold leverage.
Right.
And that sounds like what he's doing. And so he's getting himself trapped. And this is the problem. You get roped in, it becomes a downward spiral. And that's what you're describing.
He's the guy who gets taken in a deal and says, "Oh, it's not fair." It's like, well, you made the deal. You didn't have any strength, no leverage, and you made the deal ultimately. Sorry, you got messed over there, buddy.
Well, I mean, honestly, guys, think about this. It's you can't negotiate when you're stupid either.
No. Well, I did see Carney here at Davos was basically trying to unify people against the United States. Did you see that?
I did not, but
part of what he was saying was that smaller countries, they're not weak. And if they come together, they can stand up against countries like the United States. And I'm thinking, well, China is probably the second superpower in the globe right now, and you're making deals with them. So I don't understand where you're going with this.
Well, you also think about it, the small countries have different interests. It's not all the same. They're not all the same people. They're not all the same background, same religion. So you're trying to get them to unify on maybe on a few issues, but not across the board. I mean, come on now. You're going to be betraying your own interest at some point.
No, Peter's saying, yep, you're right. Yeah, so I don't know. I think Carney's just not been a good pick for Canada, to be honest with you.
Yeah, former governor of the world.
Way when we heard he was going to be leading Canada, that it wasn't right. And a lot of people felt like he was being appointed, not voted in. Peter, maybe you want to weigh in on that one. Let us know how you feel about his leadership, and if you feel like he's been appointed as being voted in.
Interesting. Yeah. Peter says Deep State Edict Carney is former governor of the Bank of England. Yeah, I imagine so. Yeah.
He's the only non-UK citizen ever to be the governor of the Bank of England.
Okay. So that says something about the guy. He's got some sway, power somewhere.
Oh, he's got global contacts.
Somebody owes him something big if he got that, not being English or British citizen, right? Well, I know he's a subject, technically.
Right, exactly. Right? That's why it's possible, because it's part of the Commonwealth, the British Commonwealth. So that's why he's able to do that. But yeah, look, Carney is not a very smart guy, and unfortunately, and this is one place where I'm not happy, President Trump, he made a lot of noise about Canada last year, and it really probably kept the Conservatives from winning a race they would have won handily, as people just, being stubborn, stupid Canadians vote against their best interests because they were angry at Trump, and they just went ahead and voted for the leftists. And so we got more of the same stupidity we had under Justin Trudeau, who was not missed. You ever heard his name mentioned since he left office? I haven't.
No, I haven't heard Juicy in a while. Juicy Trudeau or Juicy Smollett in a minute.
He must be in a bunker with his buddy Joe Biden. We haven't heard from him either.
He was easily forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. He will be a footnote in history at best, whereas Trump is all over the place, and no matter what happens, everyone's gonna remember Trump.
Yeah, no matter what. I mean, the good and the bad, you're still gonna remember this guy for decades upon decades. And people will be talking about him, and they'll be writing papers about him, and trying to remember this time in history. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, no, when they teach political science and stuff, he's gonna be a main subject.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely. He's
and Trump, he's got Carney.
Yeah, Trump. Yeah, I thought that's what we're talking about. Was
Trump.
No,
I'm just making sure it's clear for the audience.
Okay.
Trump, not Carney.
Right. Not Carney.
No, not Carney. That's for darn sure. Yep. So big storm headed our way, guys, like you said. And here in central Pennsylvania, we'll probably get a bit of snow. But, all that snow I saw in Rochester, there was almost none here when I came back. It was completely north here. Must have been a lake effect blowing off the Lake Ontario.
That's true. Yeah, you probably had a lot of that. And that's kind of wild. I mean, I've been up to Chicago, Milwaukee a lot of times and get that lake effect off Lake Michigan. It is wild to see how high snow can actually get. And it's like, it didn't snow that much. That's just from the lake. It's wild.
Oh, I've seen 30-foot snowdrifts before. That's pretty hectic.
Yeah. Let's switch gears here. And I don't mean to take over here, but you talked about going up to Rochester for some events of something at the beginning of the show. You said we'll get to it. I'd like to know more about that. I know
Todd
you
has
text
been
messages
salivating
earlier.
on this one. Since
I
we got
am.
that
I'm sorry.
message.
Since you sent the text
All
message
right.
earlier,
Well,
I'm
okay.
interested.
All right. Well, let's give people a little
Yeah, there we go.
a little aperitif. We'll give them
There we go.
a little taste test here to keep them coming back in the second hour. So, you guys know that I've been covering the refugee program that Trump set up for South Africans to come over here for the past
Right.
year. There have been well over 1,000 South Africans who's come under the program, but it's really gearing up. It's we got through May to December, we only had 1,055, but remember there was a government shutdown. There was Christmas exodus, plus the program was a pilot project for many months before they got it established. But the pace has really picked up. The first ones in this calendar year arrived on the 6th of January. There's about 50 of them. And then shortly after that, about 120 per day began coming over. So we're now hitting today, again, I can confirm tonight, 120 South Africans left South Africa for America to come here permanently as refugees. So some of them are not having a good experience because they're winding up in places where the refugee assistance agencies, imagine this, they're mostly leftists, have issues. And they either that or they don't do their job. So I've been hearing from South Africans in Rochester that they're being treated abysmally. Now, I allow for the fact that people embellish, they exaggerate, they overstate, they also get frustrated, and sometimes, that any little thing gets turned into something big. That's a possibility. Also allow for the possibility that they could be quite accurate in telling the truth. Not that they were lying, but, they might have gotten carried away. So since there was a critical mass, there's 8 or 10 of them up there. At this point, I decided that I would go do a meet and greet because I do this all over South Africa. And I'm going to Texas. I'll be there on the 31st of January in Argyle, Texas for a big meet and greet with South Africans who live in Texas and South African refugees who arrive there because there's over 200 of them there now, as well as any Americans that support the South African community. It's going to be huge. John B. Wells from Caravan to Midnight, the guy used to be on Coast to Coast.
Yeah, I'll be on his show again coming up soon, by the way.
Okay, well, I'll be on there tonight after this show.
Oh my God, you got me beat. Sorry.
I think you're kind of a frequent flyer there, aren't you, Chris?
I am. Yeah. And but I'll be on John B. Wells' program tonight. But John B. and his wife Brenny will be there at the meet and greet, as well as a South African refugee who's become very popular here in the States, and may have one other special guest and some music. But that's on the 31st of January. So I went up to do a meet and greet, which I do in South Africa all the time. I've done a few of them in England as well. And so I went up there and I met with them on Martin Luther King Day, Monday in the evening, and listened to what they had to say. Plus, there's a South African who's now a naturalized American who came as a university student, then stayed, became a permanent resident, and eventually became naturalized. So he's up there. He's been helping some of them out. And I listened to their stories, and it was an embellishment. There were a few things I think maybe they felt beleaguered, so they made assumptions that weren't necessarily true. Like, for instance, one of the families said, well, we believe that's bigotry or racism directed against South Africans. And we feel that way because when we arrived, our case officer from the Refugee Resettlement Agency said, well, this is not a red state. And the person said, what's a red state? He didn't understand that.
Right.
I mean, that is unacceptable. I mean, the Hatch Act applies for federal employees.
Yes.
If a contractor is pulling that crap, introducing politics into what is supposed to be an apolitical event, this is a problem. So that's an issue I have. And that's something that the Church World Service needs to address. So, by the way, they never addressed me in the last year when I wrote to them. I'm not the only one. I know an attorney has been writing to them asking for answers. I wrote to them as a media person asking for answers. They blew us all off. I did a video which blew up on yesterday, and suddenly I got an email from Church World Services last night responding to my messages from a week ago and my phone calls from a week ago. Anyway, so I went and saw them, and their concerns seemed valid. And then I saw them Monday night. Then Tuesday, I went to this refugee agency, Church World Services in Rochester. And I was hoping I could see someone there and just ask them questions, and if they can't talk to the press, that's fine, but at least tell me that. It was 14 degrees ambient temperature. The wind was blowing at 30 knots. It was cold. It was freezing. Ooh. And so cold, it was so windy that I had to keep grabbing my camera stand because the wind was blowing it over my tripod. So my phone didn't hit the turf. Anyway, so what happened was I went there and I started filming because I looked at the door. They have a metal box that has directions. Push the pound sign, look at the menu on the screen, and then select the agency you want. Well, the screen is behind the metal frame and it's fallen down, so only the top 3 letters are exposed. You can't read it. So how would you know how to contact them? I didn't. So I called them on the phone and it went straight to voicemail again, which is what it's always done. So I went around the parking lot, explained to people that they're not answering the phone. And in the meantime, a refugee had been sitting in his car. I talked to him. He'd been trying to get a hold of his agent who wasn't responding. He sat in his car to stay warm because it was freezing out there. And then I did my broadcast and I left. I came back later on after making a few other stops. And another refugee was there. It was an Afghan. And he and the first refugee was still there. It was like an hour later. He's still there. So they're talking. So I walked up the vehicle to see what they're talking about. And then the other guy took off. And the Afghan who was there now said hi. And I started chatting with him. I told him what I was doing. And he said, please come sit in the car. His wife had gotten in the back seat. I guess they'd already discussed it in their language. And I jumped in and he started telling me about his experience. He's been here for a year. When he arrived last year and he was in Rochester, his agent dumped them in whatever location they put them in, whether it was a hotel or an apartment, I don't know. But they put, because I didn't have time to ask, he had to go to work. So they put them there for a week. No money, no food. The agent never came back to check on them. Now put yourself in their shoes. Afghan refugees who barely speak English, she doesn't speak English at all, with a small child, dumped in Rochester, New York in the wintertime with no money, no food, no communication, nothing. That's what happened to them. Then it took them 2 months before their agent bothered to get them enrolled for food stamps. That's 2 months of benefits they lost for a family. And it gets worse. It gets worse. This is what set me off. And this is when I think my video was seen, and that's probably got spread around like wildfire amongst the Church World Service people and the refugee community up there. He told me that because he's Muslim, he had asked his case officer, do you know where we can buy halal meat? To which the case officer, he says, told him, you people eat dog. Why do you need halal meat?
Oh, God. How sick. That's sick.
What kind of bigots and racists are they hiring that would say something like that to a refugee? So this also dispels the nonsense that the distractors are always attacking me, claiming this about me and that about me. Well, obviously I care about human beings, not about race, not about ethnicity, not about gender. And I'm standing up for refugees, even though I'm not in favor of refugees coming here necessarily. I'm agnostic on that issue when it comes to reporting. But I am passionate about the fact that we pay tax dollars to these organizations to take care of these refugees. If we offer them succor and safety, and they're legitimate refugees who've come here and follow the process, and we offer them a safe haven here, we have legislated certain benefits and entitlements that they should be getting. And if a refugee assistance agency is not doing its job, then the government technical monitor for the government contract is failing in their day-to-day oversight of the contract, and the organization providing services is failing. The chief executive officer of Church World Service makes $384,000 a year, yet an Afghan family was left to starve to death in a location in Rochester, New York last year because of neglect. And it gets worse and worse. I mean, so the things that the South Africans told me were clearly not overstated. One thing that was a little bit embellished is I got some feedback. We live in a ghetto. It's dangerous here. I went to the neighborhoods where some of them live. Look, it's not a place I would live today, but I'm also not 19 anymore, and I don't live in poverty anymore. They're poor neighborhoods, but they're well lit, clean streets. It's not rundown buildings. It's both neighborhoods look like they're about 100 years old, and so they're not brand new places. And the one family I went to, the landlord has split the house, so they didn't know that. So they went upstairs and they walked right in on an Afghan family because they were renting the upstairs as an apartment. They got the downstairs. They didn't know that because they weren't even taken there. Check this out: they were not even taken there by the refugee agent. They were told the address and the keys were outside in the mailbox. So they went to the residence. The agent didn't even take them there. The landlord wasn't there. No one showed them around. They didn't even know they had a washing machine and a dryer. Didn't even know there was a basement for the place until a weekend plus after they got there. I mean, that's ridiculous. How are you supposed to know what happens if the electricity goes out, if the gas goes out, if the heating isn't working, who to contact for maintenance? This is the level of incompetence and lack of support these people are getting. And instead of getting sympathetic ears, I was accosted later in the day by someone who had nothing to do with that organization whatsoever, because clearly the people who are doing something untoward spread the word around very quickly that I was in town, and they acted like I was Nick Sorter or Nick Shirley or something like that.
Right. Coming to blow the lid off.
And I will save that story for after the next hour to keep people to hang around, because I'm going to tell you what happened here. What happened here shouldn't happen to anybody. And and people are very fortunate that I'm a very calm, reserved person, and that I'm rational because, of course, Todd and I have both seen the most horrific things in life. And so they're very fortunate that's who they're dealing with, because they've been dealing with just a regular Joe off the street. That guy would have been eating his teeth for lunch. I'm going to tell you that right now. The guy, and we'll talk about the next hour. That ought to get you curious about the next hour, what's coming.
Oh, baby. But, yeah, I knew what was coming. Oh, baby.
So that's the stage. I've set the stage for what's coming next hour. And there we go. We'll see you at the next hour, folks. It's 8 o'clock.
WSMN 1590. WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
USA Radio News, I'm Anthony Lucero.
And they're going to be involved in mineral rights, and so are we.
President Trump says the developing Greenland deal will be infinite.
Forever. It'll be forever.
While speaking with CNBC, Trump said the U.S. and NATO allies will cooperate on missile defense and mineral access, arguing Greenland is critical to national security amid growing pressure from Russia and China. President Trump is highlighting his first full year back in office at the World Economic Forum in Davos.
We're doing numbers in terms of people investing in the United States like we've never had before. I guess it's because of November 5th, the election, but a view, and it's a view on tariffs to protect our country because our country is being plucked.
While speaking with reporters, Trump pointed to National Guard deployments, tougher action on illegal aliens, and a strong stock market, saying his agenda is not liberal or conservative, but driven by common sense. Former NFL journalist Michelle Tafoya has filed paperwork to run for the Minnesota Senate as a Republican.
And the people doing everything right are the ones paying the biggest price. Well, I'm not going to stay on the sidelines any longer. Starting today, I'm running for the United States Senate.
The former NBC Sunday Night Football sideline reporter left broadcasting in 2022 and is seeking the open seat being vacated by retiring Democrat Tina Smith. Pending home sales plunged last month.
According to the National Association of Realtors survey, pending sales of existing homes fell 9.3% across the U.S. between November and December. Sales are down to their lowest point in 5 months. Economists say rising home prices and fewer listings offset lower interest rates. I'm at Mattinson.
Wall Street closed in the green.
At the closing bell, the Dow rose 588 points. The S&P 500 climbed 78 points, and the Nasdaq jumped 270 points. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
From America's News Network, USA Radio News.
Maybe this is you too. There's enormous frustration right now with healthcare costs. It is amazing. Healthcare costs for families in the last 20 years have almost tripled, and it just keeps getting worse. All this to say, this is why MediShare is so in demand right now. People are looking for alternatives, and MediShare is proven. You can save thousands of dollars a year and actually like it more. Over 1 million Americans are now part of healthcare sharing, and MediShare is the gold standard. It's trusted. It works. It's been helping people save money and have peace of mind now for 30 plus years. It's not some big impersonal thing either. It's a community of people like you helping each other. So yeah, if you're frustrated too, here's your chance to make a refreshing change. You'll notice the difference as soon as you call. They're easy to talk to. You can get a price within 2 minutes. Here is the number. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
Tired of wondering where your money really goes? At Mammoth Nation, we built what was missing. The America First Marketplace. Every brand we feature is 100% American owned and operated, rigorously vetted for their values and committed to supporting our Constitution, law enforcement, and the American dream. When you shop with us, your dollar stays in the neighborhood, supporting families, veterans, and charities like Folds of Honor. No more sending your hard-earned money overseas to the companies that don't respect you here. Your dollar reflects your values. Your dollar, your values. Your America. Join Mammoth Nation today and be part of building a patriot economy by going to truckersunitedforfreedom.com affiliate page and hit that link. American built, America strong, Mammoth Nation.
Hi, Nashua. I'm Perry Cataldo from Choice Benefit Services, your local insurance agent that has dedicated himself to all the Medicare plans in New Hampshire. Whether you're just turning 65, new to Medicare, or already have a plan, I'll explain all your Medicare options and extra benefits that you hear so much about. I ensure you're getting all you're entitled to and all that you deserve. Nashua, don't get fooled again this year. Call Perry Cataldo at 603-461-5550. That's 603-461-5550. Or visit me online at cbsnh.com. That's cbsnh.com. I look forward to hearing from you. And remember, health is wealth.
Most social platforms throttle your reach, track your behavior, and decide what you're allowed to see. Audax does none of that. Here, you control the algorithm. Your posts go where you send them, without shadow bans, filters, or hidden limits. Audax doesn't spy on your private life. No one listens to your calls. No one monitors your searches. And because we don't take money from corporate advertisers, no one is manipulating what you see or how you use the platform. Audax is built for patriots who want a place to organize, speak freely, and push back against the issues facing America without interference. Freedom isn't free, but it's worth every penny. Join the Rise for Liberty project at audax1.com and take back your voice.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work or restorative services, each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
Memorials of distinction for people who care. Gate City Monuments, folks. Check it out. Hope you don't need it anytime soon, but feel free to check it out. I just fixed my Chinese clock, but I see it's not quite right now, so let me adjust that.
There you go.
It loses time all the time. About once a week, it loses at least a minute. So I've got to adjust it all the time and had to update it. And it's already a minute behind, I see.
Could be a Chinese conspiracy to make sure you're late at least by a minute or two every so often, right?
I think the problem is the transmitter and it drains all the power.
It's got a microphone. Yeah. Like
it's sending back to Chinese, to the Chinese, all the stuff they're concerned about what I have to say. So anyway,
didn't Russia or the Soviet Union give this, I guess it was Secretary of State a long time ago, and a nice eagle or whatever had a listening device in it, and they had it on display forever, till they found it.
Well, remember what they did? They built our embassy in Moscow, and the whole place was riddled with bugs. They just had to abandon the building. Remember that?
Right. Oh yeah.
How do you get a Russian firm to build our embassy in Russia? Just stupid. And the Soviet Union. All right, so let's continue on with that story now, folks, if you're curious about it. So I made an effort to go around Rochester to try to find good news stories. I was trying to see if I could find places that would be able to offer help and services to the South Africans who felt they're being neglected by the agent that's being paid to support them. And so I went looking for this place called Refugees Helping Refugees. That sounds like a good thing. Who would know better what it's like to be fresh in the country and be at a loss and need some help than refugees who've been there before you. So I went to the address they're listed at, and they weren't there. There was a sign on the door that said, go to this address. They've moved. It looked like it'd been up for a while. So I went to the other address about 4 miles away. And as I drove there, I looked to my right, and it was a parking lot for about 3,000 cars. On the left-hand side was the baseball stadium, ostensibly where the Rochester Red Wings must play at. And then down the street, I could see the abandoned Eastman Kodak headquarters, their global headquarters, because they don't exist anymore. And so I pulled into a parking lot. I couldn't park there, but just the entrance, and called the number that was from the sheet. And it was an AI voice, and it said, if you're a client or a friend of a family, push 1. If you're a solicitor, basically screw off, hang up.
Right.
So I pushed 1. It says, that does not work. So I called again. That does not work. So they give an address that doesn't exist. They give a phone number that doesn't work. And I'm like, this is pretty dodgy. So I gave up on that. And then I decided to go check out this Legal Assistance Center of Western New York, which supposedly provides legal services to refugees, probably a pro bono place. So I drove, and that was in a dodgy part of town. And as I drove around, there was nowhere to park. It was, you can't park. It's prohibited on the street, and the other street's one way, and that lane is no parking at all. There's pay parking, but I mean, as I drove around, I looked in at the address, and the building looked like some rundown place that hadn't been worked in years. And I'm like, you know what? It's not that important. They can find legal help on their own. I was just trying to help. So I left there.
Right.
So then I went back to Church World Services, and I parked in because there's a lot next to their place where you can just park. There's no charge for it. And I was going through my notes about where I'm going to go. And then I met that Afghan refugee who told me about, he was told by his agent that he eats dog. And it was very insulting. So after being armed with that story, I was kind of irritated. And I went and did a live stream sitting in the back of my car because it was freezing outside. And then from there, one of my moderators said, here's an address where Church World Services is located elsewhere in Rochester, which I didn't know, but it was on Lexington Avenue, which is a place where I was going anyway to visit the next place on the list. So I drove there, I parked my car, and I get out, and the address is a church. There's a church right there. I'm like, oh, but there's no sign saying Church World Service or anything. So I walked up the church, I knocked on the door. This Kenyan woman who's a Somali opened the door. She welcomed me in. I walked inside, and inside the church, there's no pews, but there are bookshelves all over the place and books. They've got a library set up for refugees. There are some people at the front who were very friendly. They went and got the gentleman who was working there. He was an Afghan. We sat down in the front, talked a few minutes. I explained who I am. I said, I'm a retired Army colonel, and I do consulting and independent journalism. I came up here to check on refugees and trying to find places that are offering services because some of them getting services from Church World Services aren't happy with the service they're getting. And I always told you guys refugee place here. I had no idea, but this looks fascinating. I mean, I'd love to do a story about this. It looks like a good news story. He said, you should talk to our supervisor. So he said, let's go talk to Mike. So we walked out of the building, and I thought we were going to walk around the side of the church, like where the priest would have an office or something like that. But that wasn't it. We actually started walking down the street. And as we crossed the street, I looked at the address on the other place, and it was the address for this place I was going to go to, the Rochester Refugee Resettlement Services on Lexington Avenue. I'm like, okay, that's great. It's in a house, just a little house there. So we walked in, and he took me to the back, and Mike was out, the supervisor. And so he came back to the front, and there was an Asian lady there, and there was an American on the other side, and they asked what I was doing. I explained the whole situation. I said, look, I came here unannounced. I mean, I'm just trying to find places where refugees are getting service, and I want to do a good news story because I had a bad news story early this morning elsewhere. Nothing to do with you guys. I said, look, if he's available for an interview, that's great. If he's available to talk off the record, that's great. If he doesn't want to talk, that's fine. Again, I intruded on your time, so I'm happy to get an opportunity to speak to folks if you're willing to do it, because I'd love to tell good news stories, because there are some very bad news stories going to be coming out of this town about refugee support. And everyone was polite and friendly. There were some refugees sitting there waiting for services, and then they gave me his number. I put it in my pocket, and I said, okay, well, I'll take off now, and because it's lunchtime, and if he calls me, I'll wait for the call. If not, I'll call him back later in the afternoon to see if something's feasible. And as I was about to leave, this black gentleman walked in. He came up and said hello. He had a bunch of doorknobs in his hand, and I said hi. He walked to the back, and I said, gosh, he looks like he's a really busy guy. And he's like, I am a busy guy. Okay, dude, it wasn't a slur. It was just recognizing you're pretty busy. So so I'm standing there, and he was kind of talking to us from the back there. And so I thought it was rude to just walk out. And then he starts looking at his phone. So I turned to him and said, okay, guys, I'm just going to take off. And then he comes up as if to greet me, and he says, I need you to get out of the building. I said, sorry? Yeah, I don't need you here. I want you out. I said, okay, I'll leave. It's private property. Yeah, I know all about you. I know who you are. You're the guy from Pennsylvania. I said, yeah, I live in Pennsylvania. Get out. I walked out the door, and he said something as he was going out the door, and it was very rude. I said, well, obviously, whoever told you about me doesn't tell the truth, or you wouldn't behave in such a fashion towards me. So I walk out, and it's about 50 yards to the corner. I walk down the street. Maybe there's a bunch of snow on the sidewalk. So I'm walking down the street. He walks out on the porch, and I'm not even talking to him, and he's talking on the phone to somebody. And I look back over my shoulder, and he's like, F you, F off to Pennsylvania, F you, get the F out of here, F off. He started screaming like a lunatic on the street. And I look back, and I'm like, dude, what a potty mouth. I said, I'm on a street corner. Leave me alone. Public street.
Right.
So then I pull up my phone. I start recording and saying, hey, look, I'm out here in Rochester, and I just met with these wonderful people, and I had a good news story, but some lunatic is out here verbally accosting me and being profane and being disrespectful. And so then I walked across the street to my car, and he went across the street directly across from where that office was. I must went to his vehicle. I couldn't see there were some vehicles there in a parking lot. And then the next thing I know, I look behind me as I'm getting close to my car, and he's standing in the street holding his phone up, recording me. He's like holding his phone up like this, like he's video recording me, trying to get my license plate or whatever.
Right.
So I got in my car, I put the window down, I stuck my hand out, and I just waved goodbye to him like that. I went down the street, I turned around, down the block. I came back, and he was still standing at the porch ranting. I put the window down as I turned left to go down a side street. I leaned out the window, and I said, Happy New Year, a-hole.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so what this has done, gentlemen, is Not only do I see a problem in service delivery with Church World Service in Rochester, I'm not talking about the whole company or the whole world. I'm talking about in Rochester. Not only is there clearly a problem there, and the South Africans weren't embellishing, they're not the only ones being treated like crap. And Afghan and others I talked to were also treated like crap. They couldn't get in the building. They couldn't get appointments. No one answered their phone calls. Being told that you eat dogs, not getting food stamps for people. They also told that their agents aren't giving them any services. They're just collecting paychecks. That appears to be the case. They tell them to go to the Department of Health and Human Services. Well, they don't even know what DHHS is in New York. They don't know what the hell that is. They're not from New York. They're not Americans. And so when the Afghan went there, I got the exact same story that I got from the South African. They were told to go there on their own. They figured it out. They went to the place. They went to get registered for benefits or some services. And they said, well, first off, you don't have an appointment. So who told you to just come here? You have to have an appointment. Second thing is, we can't do anything for you because you're refugees unless your refugee support agency is here with the paperwork from the government. They have to bring that to us. So they wasted their time and resources and energy trying to get stuff. Also, New York State apparently has matching grants. I'm not an expert on this. I don't live in New York, thank goodness. But apparently they have matching grants. They'll match federal funding, but it must be applied within the first 3 days after a refugee arrives. Well, guess what? The first South African families have already lost out on the money because their agent is unreachable and won't do the task. The people arriving now, I'm concerned they won't get the money as well. In addition to that, they were given a letter, one of the families, which says how much money they received. And it says they received $2,500 per person, 2 people in the families. And on top of that, $800 and some other cash assistance. And I said, were you given $5,800? And like, no, we've never seen that money. Now, some of that may have been applied towards their rent and towards like groceries that was given to them, but they got virtually nothing except 1 month of rent. That's it. And the rent is like $1,400. So where's the rest of the $5,800? What services in kind? It doesn't say service in kind, it says direct assistance. Well, one can interpret that to be services in kind, but you should get an itemized list. I've seen other refugees where groceries are purchased, a cell phone, airtime, transportation, a bus card, all that's listed. There's no itemized list. It just says you were given $5,800. There is something fishy going on. Now, the question about the gentleman who lost his mind, John, is that why did he behave that fashion? Number one, I wasn't rude, disrespectful to anybody. I didn't even come to that office. I was brought to that office by a gentleman I met at a different organization down the street. He brought me over there.
Right.
And so that place is called Mary's Place. It isn't called the Refugee Services. So I went to Mary's Place. Maybe it's owned by Rochester Refugee Resettlement Service. I don't know. But the point of the story here is that I would have left there if he hadn't intervened and there would have been nothing. And I would have said, hey, I found this place. It looks like it's helping refugees. I just would have had a story. That's all I could have said. Had they talked to me, I would have probably had a very good news story. But now I have a situation in which someone I don't know has been abusive towards me, disgusting, disrespectful, rude. And number one, he did this to an American who wasn't rude or disrespectful or overstayed his welcome. When he asked me to leave, I left immediately. I didn't curse him out. I didn't threaten him. I didn't say anything to him. I just left the building because that's the best way to diffuse the things, especially with a lunatic like that. I had no idea he was going to behave that way. So it's a good thing I'd left that way. Anyway, so if that's how he treats an American, and especially someone who's older than him, I'm not elderly, but I guess with the Santa Claus beard, you might mistake me for an elderly person. Fine. And never mind that. I spent 36 years in uniform supporting and defending the country for some jerk to tell me that I can't be on a public street in a city in the United States. He can go straight to where the sun doesn't shine. I'll be where I want to be. That is public property. I'm a citizen. I defended this land. And I don't know where he's from, whether it's New York or it's from the Bahamas or wherever he's from, but who does he get off thinking he is? And now what they've done, Todd, is they've sparked an interest. Now I'm going to look at their funders. I'm going to look at this if there's a nexus between this Church World Service and this organization in Rochester. And I'm going to dig and I'm going to dig and I'm digging. And the upshot of all this is that if he hadn't behaved that way, their organization wouldn't have anything to do with a congressional inquiry. But guess what? There's now a congressional inquiry because of Church World Services in Rochester, because they didn't answer my phone calls. They didn't answer my emails. They didn't answer the door. And they've treated people like crap, and not just South Africans. And I didn't do the congressional inquiry. I was contacted by someone who contacted their congressional representative in the House of Representatives to initiate a congressional inquiry into what's happening in Rochester. I didn't even do it. So this idiot has just got his organization drug into a congressional investigation. And if there's something going on like this fraud going on in Somalia, then guess what? They're going to regret it. See, they attacked the wrong person. Stupid people always do stupid things.
Absolutely, yeah. And the governor of New York, and not very well liked in D.C., especially in the Trump administration. I don't think they'd have a problem going after her or looking into this this nonsense in Rochester. And think about it, 5,800 or however much you said, direct support. It's like this guy seems to be the way he acted toward you seems to be like he wants you out of there, not looking at anything, not asking any questions. Get the heck off the property, because probably somebody along the way or a bunch of somebody's is keeping some money away from refugees that actually deserve that money. And it's their legal money. Obviously it's theirs by right, I guess.
Well, here's another potential angle too, and it may be perfectly innocent. I'm not making any allegations, but all of the South African refugees, although they live in different neighborhoods, have the exact same landlord.
The Leering Center's all over again. This has the Leering Center's all over here. Yeah.
So if this guy was an idiot, the way to handle the situation would have been to simply say, okay, thanks for coming by. Mike will get in touch with you and let me walk out the door. Because I was walking out the door. Instead, he insults an American citizen, a member of the media, a veteran, combat veteran of this country. He doesn't know how stupid he is. Now his organization is under scrutiny.
What I'm confused about is
played it off.
How did he know who you are? You said you said something about somebody must have told him who you are or something like that, but why?
Well, I think what happened is that when I did the live stream in my car, that because I titled it Church World Services Rochester, that somebody was watching my channel or it popped up in a search term. So like on Google, every time somebody says Wyatt in Liberia, I have a search term and I get an alert if there's a news article, because it's usually a story about my time there and what I did in Liberia. And I always want to stay on top in case somebody makes some sort of stupid claim so I can be prepared to refute it. So you can make a search term for Google, anything. And someone probably said Church World Services Rochester. Anytime it pops up in the news, they want to know about it. And that's probably, I don't know. I'm just making an assumption here, but obviously somebody saw that video, and then the little network started going the jungle wire and telling people, hey, watch out for this guy who's going around. And that's the reason why I came back the second day, because it seems obvious to me that if there is a nexus of corruption going on here, that it would not have been productive for me to go to any other agencies that offer refugee services, because they might be involved and they probably got the word. And even if they're not involved, they'd be afraid to talk to me after what was starting to go down in Rochester. But there's a congressional inquiry underway now. And so that was very stupid, very, very stupid of these people. So someone told me that they commented on my video and they said, well, you got what you deserve. You went there to stir crap. I didn't go there to stir crap. As I said in my video, I went there to listen to the South Africans, have a meet and greet, listen if they were just being embellishing or exaggerating their situation, interview them in person, which I've done in Idaho, I've done it in Alabama, and I've done it in New York, and I'll be doing it in Texas, interviewing South African refugees about their experiences, unrelated to the refugee services, but just coming over. So that was the purpose. And then I was going to go try to ask these people at Church World Services if they could explain what was going on or help these people. And they didn't answer. Then I saw other refugees show up at the location who couldn't get access to the building in not sub-zero, but nearly sub-zero weather, below 20 degrees. It's freezing out there, sub-Celsius zero. And they're not getting attention, not getting help. And then have refugees relate to me their stories about their experiences. Now, the Afghan guy that I met at the place that was very friendly to me, Mary's place, before the guy lost his mind, that guy told me he had a very good experience when he came, but it was with a different refugee agency. They were helpful. They picked him at the airport. They helped get food and everything. They were very helpful. So look, I mean, this all could have blown away if somebody simply answered my question. But instead, I got a pro forma response last night at 6:18 while I was driving back from New York from Church World Services, in which they try to be mealy-mouthed. Well, we received your message from late last week. Yesterday was a holiday, so we're just getting a chance to answer you today. Well, you didn't answer my message in June. You didn't answer my message September, December. Now you're answering my, okay, so I don't want to hear it. Well, we cannot discuss the particulars of clients for confidentiality. I said I didn't ask to discuss particulars. I have complaints being leveled by refugees, and I can tell you the complaints. You can look into it. That's all I'm asking. I didn't ask you. I didn't ask. See, it's just a standard pro forma response, a typical feedback from big corporate giant that wants to blow off anyone that's asking questions.
Right.
I was simply trying to inform them. If they had done their job, this wouldn't be happening in Rochester. Simple as that. Something very dirty, underhand, and shady is going on in Rochester, and this story is not over now. And assaulting me verbally will be a mistake that organization is going to regret. Now, I've opened the door. I haven't contacted him. I do have the gentleman's number. I've opened the door on my videos, which I know they're probably watching now, my videos. And I said to the director, Mike, whose name I haven't revealed other than Mike, and his phone number, I won't do that. offered to Mike an opportunity to come to my program, offered even not to do a live broadcast, but do a recorded one. And I even offer the opportunity for him to watch the video before I post it. So
That's
that if he has
fair.
an objection, that's very fair. That's beyond fair. If he wants to come on. And I have no intention to even talk about the guy who was disrespectful to me. I want to tell a good news story about that place. But now I've got questions. Are you linked to Church World Services? How so? What's going on there? Anyway.
Right. Absolutely.
So
let me mention somebody real quick in the chat here. CMD PRAC, PRAC, not sure what it's short for, said that they read my book and had a similar thoughts on it. So I really appreciate you reading that book, and hopefully it helped you a little bit. Thank you for and that's going to go a long way in helping reduce veterans suicide and suicide in all demographics in Tennessee. All that money is being donated to our American Legion Be the One commission here in the volunteer state. So thank you for buying the book and reading it. I just want to say that real quick, Colonel. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. I see that over in the chat now. I didn't notice before. Yeah, no, it's things like that can be very helpful to others. It's people. That's something although I've seen it up close and personal. Unfortunately, it's something I've never fully understood. Is what drives people to that. In the worst of times and some pretty horrific times in my life, particularly my childhood, it's something I never thought of. So I can't put myself in the shoes of people who've been there.
Right.
I have dealt with people who've been on the verge and who've come back from that and never done that again. It's very sad. It's a shame. Life is such a precious gift. Even when you're in pain, life is a gift. The fact that you exist and you're sentient. I mean, you think of people who have mental health issues, who have developmental issues, who can't fully enjoy and appreciate the beauty of this planet, the beauty of life, interaction with other people, and you think, what a gift. I've always said that my concern is less so physical infirmary. What's the word I'm looking for? Frailties, physical frailties. Yeah, physical frailties, which is an issue, as I discovered with my hip being a problem for a while. But that 5 cc's of fluid shooting out of that hip joint, it's a lot better now.
There you go.
Sure it'll fill up again at some point, but right now it's a heck of a lot better. But that's always a concern. But for me, I've always thought, ever since we became much more aware of dementia and Alzheimer's in particular, that would be the tragedy that would befall me. I mean, because your brain, your ability to communicate, your memories, all that is so precious. I wouldn't want to be a husk or a shell of who I was. That would really, really suck. But yeah, the physical frailties are difficult, but I'll take those over the mental issues. I want to be mentally acute and strong and vibrant at 125 as I am today.
Right. Well, as Viceroy, you're going to need to have that strength over there, by the way.
Well, I mean, you got to be hardy to live in Greenland. So I mean, we'll just
that's true. You got to be hardy. Yeah, hardy Viceroy.
Of course, the Greenlanders are leading the charge, calling for global warming. They're the first proponents for it. They want to sell bottled Icelandic, water, pure glacial water there as it melts in the global warming, and then more farmland is available, more land to build on, and more minerals are accessible. I mean, they're leading the charge, calling for more global warming.
Can you see the market? Can you see the marketing strategies on this? Yes,
absolutely.
You too can buy a bottle of freshly melted glacier water.
Exactly.
We could sell them
thousands
some
of years
snowblowers.
ago.
We could sell some snowblowers up there, right? Open a Lowe's Home Improvement.
The upside of global warming is evident in Greenland. There you go.
Actually, they're talking about shipping lanes and stuff for opening up there due to global warming, and it's going to be beneficial to, I would save like 40% of travel time.
It does, but that also opens up a lot of threats for China and Russia, and that's why Trump is so worried about Greenland.
Right.
But it's so I've already got my theme as the Viceroy of Greenland with global warming in place. Greenland is greening. Come join us. Greenland is greening.
Greenland is green.
He's getting his tourist economy started already.
That's right. I'm already set. We got the marketing plan in place. We're ready. Anyway, yeah. So. It's so that's the situation in Rochester, and it's a puzzling situation. There was no call for that guy to be that way, and from a practical standpoint, all he had to gain was I mean, does he think he was going to frighten me?
No.
I'm sorry, wuss. I've seen far worse than you in this life. My life has been in graver danger than some idiot screaming at me in the street.
Anyway. but to follow you out to your car, to the public street, sidewalk, to your car parked elsewhere, thinking that, he can just get away with doing whatever. What if all of a sudden you decided this guy's a threat? I need to use my sidearm against him. He doesn't know if you have one on you or not. What if you?
Absolutely.
What if you felt threatened?
I mean, people are stupid. I mean, because that's in today's world, it's like don't get in a fight, don't get in an argument in a fender bender. Somebody will stab you or shoot you. It's a crazy world. So
Yeah,
no, my
absolutely.
viewers are very concerned about my safety, particularly after what's been happening to Nick Shirley and the folks, Nick Sorter and those guys up there in Minneapolis. So I have no idea, but I did get a sense that there is definitely something very rotten going on there, and this story is not going to die. So
No,
hopefully
it's
it will
not.
get attention.
I'm looking forward to updates on this one.
Yeah, so I
well,
know Billy Painter's been sharing your stories out there the last few days, even more than he normally does.
Well, I hope so. I hope that we get somewhere. Like I said, I've been Caravan at Midnight tonight, and I'll be telling this story again, recounting it there to that audience, and let's see if we can't get some pressure on answers for this. And it's a shame. Like I said, I honestly it was having a lovely experience, and after freezing, it got a little bit warmer, and I met this gentleman. He was friendly, introduced me to other people. They were friendly, and I really wanted to tell a good news story. And that probably would have been the end of it. I probably would have just dropped the whole thing with Church World Services and said that they're not getting services. And that probably would have been the end of it. But now, after hearing about one landlord, multiple locations, which doesn't mean there's anything wrong going there, but it does raise suspicions. Seeing the letter in which they claim they gave him $5,800 of direct assistance, no itemized list of that. Also telling them that in less than 30 days that they're done, they get no more services, which isn't how the law is written. They're obliged to give them services for at least 4 months. And it's something really fishy is going on here. And I wouldn't be surprised to see people pocketing money, that would
Right.
explain the
Yeah. I
behavior.
mean, you give them 1 month of pay or even just a little bit of it, get them in a place, this and that, and then tell them to shove off and you pocket the other 3 months of money. I can see it happening for sure.
So, when it comes to this and this fraud in Somalia, where are the leftists? This is in our values. Trump's cutting benefits. The benefits are being stolen. The people supposed to be getting them aren't getting them.
Well,
These people are not getting the benefits. And also, look, I'm not going to criticize the landlord, but that's like slumlords in college towns taking a house, dividing into 3 apartments and making, triple the money off of it, without providing triple the space. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I was just going to say Minneapolis proves that the left likes to protect criminals. That's what they do. We've seen ICE tell people, look, we're not here just to arrest anybody. This guy is a child molester. This guy we're coming in for to arrest as a child molester, and they're still telling him to get out of their state.
So here's my stance on that. I don't care if they're arresting just criminals who are convicted in America or those that have a conviction from abroad. They're all criminals. They all violate our sovereignty. I want them all arrested and deported. And any American who harbors them should be in prison as well. Small Fry Jacob and Tim Waltz.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. They need to go down. And Don Lemon would disagree with you. He'd say, it's a crime, but it's not really a crime, Like, Don, it's a crime. No, but it's just not really a crime. He's trying to explain to somebody.
Trying to soft soap.
Did you see that? And like the Hispanic lady was like,
Don Lemon's a journalist, but he's not really a journalist. He's an actor.
No. But the lady, Hispanic lady, not here for, she's from somewhere else. She's like, you're describing a crime. So they're committing crimes. No, but it's not really a crime. He's trying to get her to agree with him. And she's like, she's basically told him, I'm not going to agree with you. They're committing crimes. You're describing a crime. They're committing crimes. It's illegal. Why are you trying to say it's not a crime?
There
she
was
basically
a lady,
called him out on it.
There was a lady on Facebook that put a post out there, a lengthy post, kind of like an article about how this is a civil matter. It's not a crime, like a crime, right? You got criminal law and you got civil. And she's trying to say this is just civil and fails to understand overstaying your visa. That's civil.
Yeah.
Coming into the country illegally is committing a crime.
Right. It may be a misdemeanor. It may not be a felony as it should be, but it's still a crime.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a felony to cross the border illegally. That's not a misdemeanor. Yeah, pretty sure. But regardless, it's a crime. And trying to dismiss these things as if they're not crimes is ridiculous. Hey, folks, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN. Every Wednesday night, we're here, whether it's Christmas or New Year's Eve. We're here on Wednesday nights. We're always here. And so thank you for tuning in on 1590 AM or 95.3 on your FM dial. And you can also find us on Todd's favorite word, the interwebs. You can find us on the Truckers. John, what's it? The Truckers. What's your network?
Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network.
TIBN. There you go. Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network. You can also find us on my channel at Colonel Chris Wyatt on YouTube every Wednesday night. And we hope that you tune in to hear this common sense conversation about what's going on in the world. Tonight we focused on Greenland. And we've talked an awful lot about that. We've talked a little bit about the situation that occurred in Rochester when up there. And there's plenty of other things on the plate here, guys. You want to take a rough guess at how many of the criminal alien invaders have now departed our shore since President Trump became president? Now, bear in mind, there's probably 30 million of them in the country, but how many do you think have left?
How many are left?
On their
How
own?
many have departed?
Self-deported?
Well, self-deported and evicted. How many?
In the past year, I don't want to be.
All right, well, I'm going to put you on the spot. 3 million.
Go ahead.
3
Yeah,
million.
yeah, sorry.
3 million. Okay.
So that's
There you
3
go.
million people illegally occupying housing in America, 3 million people illegally working in America in most cases, many of them having stolen Social Security numbers and committing other crimes, all have gone. And by the way, people are criticizing that, hey, if you leave the country, give $1,000, you leave the country, give $3,000. But that $100 million is a heck of a lot cheaper than $17,000 per person that it costs to arrest a criminal alien invader and deport them. And that's the total cost. They're saving a lot of money for everyone who self-deports. But we got a long way to go. 27 million more to go.
I forgot. I looked it up a while ago about the hundreds of billions of dollars it costs us to have them here, just in diminishing wages and other factors involved. But to your point earlier, Chris, according to this AI overview, first offense coming into the border is a misdemeanor. Re-entry illegally after that becomes a felony.
Yeah. Okay. Well, many of the people I'm talking about have multiple entries. That's what I was focused on. Yeah. Yeah. But the first time entry ought to be a felony. It shouldn't be a mistake.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you for sure. And also birthright citizenship. You know, if you're here illegally, you shouldn't be able to stay here because you had a kid. I'm sorry. Or if you're here on a green card, whatever, you have a kid, you shouldn't be able to just stay here because you had a kid while you're here.
Right. You're not a citizen. Your child shouldn't be allowed. I mean, diplomats, they don't, the military that are here, your kids don't become, diplomats don't become citizens. So there's a question in the chat. How likely is the U.S. Navy will build bases in Greenland? I don't know the answer, but based on what I've heard today, it seems to be a very distinct possibility that the Navy will have bases in Greenland. I suspect they'll probably build at least 3 bases in Greenland, just a rough estimate looking at the terrain, the geography, and what needs to be done. One on the East Coast, one on the West Coast, and one in the North, probably in the Northeast, since we have a space base in the Northwest.
Yeah.
I would expect that to be the case. Yeah.
Like a joint base up there or something, expand that space station or whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, the space station. It used to be a NORAD station, if I'm not mistaken, in the past.
Okay.
I forget the name. I used to know the name, but now it's like Piftuk or something like that. It's an Inuit name, but it used to have a different name. It escapes me at the moment. But we've had a continuous presence there since World War II. In fact, we had many bases, over a dozen bases throughout Greenland when we kept the Nazis from occupying it during the Second World War because they were going to go there. Denmark capitulated like in less minutes than it takes for me to walk to the bathroom and take a tinkle.
Yeah, capitulated and gave up all the North Atlantic there. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So because it was a Danish colony in possession, the U.S. quickly moved to secure it so the Nazis wouldn't have a foothold. And I mean, imagine if the Nazis had gotten Greenland, they could have had sub bases in Nuuk.
Absolutely.
Much easier to interdict the Atlantic convoys. Nothing would have gotten through. Nothing. Because they could have refitted there all the time. Yeah. Of course, then what would have happened eventually is U.S. would have been bombing Greenland. Imagine that. It would have been horrible.
Absolutely. Yep. It did the right thing for sure.
So I think that it's very, very distinct possibility. We'll probably build an airfield or two as well. Certainly. I think that's in the cards. And then, of course, there'll be multiple locations for the Golden Dome. And of course, the Golden Dome, you can't simply build a place and leave it unattended. All it would take is a couple Zodiacs from a Chinese, cruiser showing up or a Russian submarine to come ashore and occupy those places and then shut down the whole system. So, or it'd be even more like James Bond, not shut it down, but break into one of the facilities and stick a cyber virus in there and collapse the whole Golden Dome network. Yeah, Thule. Thank you, Holden. Thule used to be the name of it. Yep, Thule. It was the name of the base. Which of course is a place in Sweden. So it's interesting. It was called Thule. But yeah, it's also a brand of clothing, if I'm not mistaken, Thule. but Thule was the name it used to be, and now it's Piftuk or something like that.
Deal.
So it was. But it's, I tell you, it's tough duty. I always wanted to go there and check it out, go TDY, but never quite happened.
That's the pronunciation. I thought it was fuel, but it's Thule, huh?
Well, I could be wrong. But then, of course, I've been saying Lesotho for 40 years, and I'm correct in that one, even though people say Lesotho.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll take your word for it. I wouldn't know. I think there was some products I saw with that name on it.
Yeah, there's an air squadron in Iceland, but I don't think they actually have any aircraft there, if I'm not mistaken. It's just forces on the ground. But yeah, no, this is big news. I mean, the Europeans canceled the trade deal, and then they look like idiots because minutes later, Trump announces a deal with NATO to secure Greenland. So
I'm reading the Fox News is basically the interview they did with him. Basically, he said, no, we didn't discuss them taking over or anything like that. No invasion, just basically a strategic defense initiative. Essentially, those are my words. Just reading a quick couple paragraphs there on Fox News.
I'm kind of curious, if you don't mind commenting on, Chris, what do you think about that congressional delegation Shaheen led over there to Denmark?
I think that's undermining the executive branch, and it's a conflict in the equal powers, separate but equal powers of the branches. Foreign diplomacy is not a responsibility of Congress.
Not.
I also thought it was inappropriate for Mike Johnson to be speaking in the House of Commons. I don't think that's appropriate either. He's not a diplomat. He's not the executive branch. They don't determine foreign policy. Members of Congress, in my view, have no business going abroad and doing that. They have no problem. I have no problem with them going abroad and doing fact-finding missions and meeting with people, but speaking at forums of power in foreign countries and holding delegations to influence our foreign policy is highly inappropriate. And quite frankly, I think the American public should punish every one of those people, Murkowski, Shaheen, and all the other clowns who went over there, and vote them out of office, because they are undermining our democracy. They like to talk about democracy being undermined by Trump, but they're actively undermining our democracy by intruding into the space of the chief executive. Look, I don't want an all-powerful chief executive. I think chief executives become too powerful, and much of the power they have, unfortunately, is a consequence of the legislative branch giving them the power. They abrogated the power and given it. But this is clearly something that's delineated to the executive branch, not to the Congress. They do not have any right whatsoever to intrude in that space. And quite frankly, I think it's seditious. I think it's seditious to the U.S. citizen and to the government of this nation for members of our Congress to go and say that they disagree and they're going to fight against our foreign policy.
Yep. Yeah, I remember, just last week, you knew the president was going over there this week to Davos, and then seeing that they showed up just before he shows up. To me, it undermines what the president, what the Sec State, and what our defense, and trade negotiations that are going to be going on over there. You undermine all of that. So basically, you hurt not just the current administration, but all Americans, especially those who elected him to go and do those things. You undermined it for no good reason, but to what? Maybe get a few donations in the Democrat coffers, which I know they're pretty much bankrupt at this point, morally, and of course ethically, and of course now fiscally.
100%. I mean, I cannot disagree with you, but this is what's been going on, and the problem is Americans are politically ignorant. Many Americans, they don't understand. You got Don Lemon up there saying, "Well, this is a First Amendment right to seek redress." No, it's not, genius. The First Amendment is your right to seek redress from the government, not from a private institution. You have no right to invade a house of worship, and you're violating a federal law, which is in accord with the Constitution, which the Democrats passed. The First Amendment of the Constitution does not give you the right to invade a church and undermine. Imagine for a moment, had I and a bunch of my neighbors gone to a mosque and done that in a mosque. Oh my goodness, the planet would be melting down right now. But the First Amendment clearly states that or the right of the people peaceably to assemble. They weren't peaceable. They were disruptive, and they were threatening and intimidating, and to petition the government for redress of grievances.
Not church.
Your neighbors, not a business, not your neighbors. You have no permit. You had no authority. And it was clearly meant to be provocative and intimidate these people because they're thugs, including Don Lemon. The little wuss is a thug. Don't push me. Dude, we saw the video. Nobody's pushing you. You're trespassing. You're lucky I wasn't there, because you would have been thrown out on your ear. And I would have armed guards at that church and make you think twice about trying to enter the building. And if it's a stand your ground, if it's a stand around your state, then you're going to find some dead leftists outside the darn building who attempted to break into a church.
Yeah, I know a number of churches here in Northeast Tennessee that have guards that actively patrol their parishioners that are trained, went through all the training, et cetera. And most of them are veterans or former law enforcement. Some are current law enforcement, and they patrol the parking lot while their families are inside, and they just walk around, and anybody shows up unfamiliar, they basically, "Hey, how's it going? Welcome to church." Kind of give them an assessment, if you will, before they go in. Yeah, engage them right away. And I think that has a lot of people off.
No, absolutely. And it's become necessary in this age. It's become fashionable to attack white males, to attack Christians, to attack the concept of America. Someone said something about democracy. We're a republic. Yeah, it's a representative democracy. Okay.
Right.
Representative democracy.
It's a type of democracy is a republic.
That's right. We are a republic, but it is a type of democracy, representative democracy. Correct. Let's not quibble about words. Okay. You are correct, but you're not correct.
No, that's true.
Democracy is commonly just used as
congratulations. You got the answer to the test, but you picked the wrong one. It was B, not A. It was C. It was C, both A and B.
Both A and B, or D,
right.
all the above.
Yeah, all the above. Yeah. So yeah, it's I mean that's the world we live in though, folks. Here, I mean this Don Lemon. I mean this guy is so stupid. Imagine he had a career making millions of dollars, being a moron on Was it MSNBC? He was on, I think it was
CNN. Yeah.
Oh, was he on CNN? Oh my, even
CNN,
worse.
yeah.
So
He was in prime time.
Yeah, he was on prime time with CNN, and he flushed it all down the drain for this, just like Cuomo did. You know, so he runs around like a little twit, attacking people in the church and trying to parse his words. Look, these people are going to mess around with the wrong people, and there's going to be some beaten up or dead people. That's what's going to happen. They need to quit being stupid. Look, what's happening is not a consequence of Trump's actions. It's a consequence of Trump's existence. These people hate America. They want it destroyed. They allow our culture to be undermined. They flood our country with people who are unwilling to assimilate. Then they try to play this game about, well, it's not about assimilation. Oh, it is. You have to have a society that functions together. You have to have a homogenous society. It's okay to have outliers in society, but you cannot have people who are diametrically opposed to each other. Radical Islamic fanatics are opposed to us. And the abuse of the R1 visa, bringing radical Muslim clerics over here to preach jihad and hatred of America and telling them to go claim services that are illegal and illegitimate to drain the country of its resources. This is a problem that our government is allowed to go on for 40 years.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. I'm just reading the chats over here, so I'm getting distracted over here. It's getting pretty good in the chat. Pretty heated. Keep it up.
There's this. First off, Bill O'Reilly did not sabotage his career. He got caught up in a Me Too movement and had fraudulent allegations against him, and Fox News, a bunch of cowards, cut him. But that's not a real network. That's another money grubbing operation, Fox News.
Oh, it is. It is. Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. They don't want. It's funny. I've been on Newsmax several times, and it's like, I've asked, Fox and the people I know at Fox, like, can I come on to speak about the same thing? And they're like, oh, we're not interested in that. I'm like, you're not interested in talking about veteran suicide, the issues at the VA, anything? No, we're not interested in that. We're not covering that at the moment. I'm like, okay, Newsmax will cover it, not you. Okay, move on.
I've never been on Newsmax or OAN. They've never called me.
Well, I was interviewed by them.
Oh, please do.
I've been on OAN a long time ago once.
Especially to talk about, geopolitical issues. I'm happy to do that, especially about anything on Africa and South Africa. But I was interviewed last week by the largest newspaper in the world. The Japanese.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did the article come out?
I haven't seen it. And I actually need to write to them. I've been busy the last couple of days. So I think it might have come out today or it's coming out tomorrow because it was edited last week. It's one of those longer term articles, not a breaking news story. So I need to find out. But they had 5.9 million daily readers. I'm 6 million actually now. That's crazy. And they still, like the old days, have a morning and evening edition. Wow. Can you imagine that? You get the morning paper and you get the evening paper. I missed that. You saw the
read all about it. Extra. Yeah.
Yeah. And the newsrooms work 24 hours a day. Now these people go home at 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I remember I was gonna do some writing for the Daily Caller, and I was like, I want to contribute articles, and they're like, oh no, we want somebody to watch the news, and you'll just do little write-ups and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't want to do write-ups about the news that somebody else is going to do the big story on later on. I want to do the big story. You know what I mean? But
you can let the 22-year-old interns do that. I mean, you don't need your brain to do that. So let them do. Somebody said it's news if American tax money is not properly used. Exactly. There was another content creator on YouTube who said that this situation with refugees and South Africans that are not getting services, it's not the government's fault. It's no. It is the government's fault. Every contract has a government technical monitor, or in DoD parlance, a contracting officer's technical representative, a coder, and they're responsible for the daily oversight of these contracts. And if the contractors aren't performing, they're responsible for reporting to the contracting officer to terminate the contract or sanction the provider. Clearly, it's not happening. It's not happening.
Yep. Oh yeah. I've done contracting officer stuff, and I've worked with AT&T, Verizon, big companies, and they've always been responsive, for the crying out loud. And even though my contract was much smaller than, say, the big DOD or big Army or whatever, but still they were responsive to me, and they took it serious. And as anybody that's providing a service to the people should. And in this way, you're providing service to the refugees, but you're providing service to your nation as well, bringing them in and properly incorporating them into our nation. And that's what way you should look at the service you're providing, not sitting there grifting people, as these people are or seem to be in a lot of cases.
Well, and the thing for me is that when people say that, they clearly don't understand how the system works. I mean, I've also had Raytheon and Boeing and a
Big
whole
time.
bunch of smaller companies that work for me in the
Yeah.
States at National Security Agency. Then when I was overseas, I had companies like DynCorp and PAE working for me, providing services. And as the government representative overseeing the day-to-day contract, you have a lot of power, a lot of authority. And if someone's not overseeing these contracts, then someone's letting the American taxpayer down. I mean, I'm not asking for anyone to bring refugees here. I'm not asking for that. But what I am saying is that if we bring them here and we make a promise that we've got them in safety, we don't dump them in a hotel and leave them there with no food for a week with a small child, and they don't even speak English, with no transport, no money. Who does that? I mean,
right.
Do these people have a conscience? I mean, Todd, as a military person, if we're overseas or even if we're stateside, a new person comes in of the same rank or similar rank, you become a sponsor. You get assigned it or you volunteer to do it. You don't get paid for it. You make sure they know where the exchange is, where the PX is, where Army Community Services are at, where food pantries are at, where the shopping is at, how to get around, yada, yada, yada. You probably sometimes take them to dinner or host them at your home and that sort of thing. Provide them with things that they might need, a lending closet, all that stuff. And it's the same thing in an embassy. If we do that for our fellow Americans, we're paying people to do something similar for refugees, and they're not even providing the most basic of services. And then they're being racist pigs and insulting them. Well, you Muslims eat dog. Excuse me? Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
You may not like that they're coming here, but you look at it as it's a legal program, under federal law, state law, etc. And you want people to operate appropriately because it is legal, even though you may not support it, directly or politically. You want them to do the right thing according to the taxpayers. I mean, do the right thing. Make sure these people have the services like you just said, and do it to the best of your ability. And if you don't like it, go get another job. There's a gas station hiring down the street.
And that's the thing exactly. So there was much that Barack Obama said and did that I found morally repugnant.
Yeah,
and also his flip-flopping on events. But he gave lawful orders. I had no choice but to follow them. There were lawful orders. I may have not liked it, but I engaged 100% and did my job. Unlike these lunatics on the street of Minneapolis who don't like the fact that the ICE agents are enforcing federal law. That's what they're doing. And they want to destroy their lives and attack these people and treat them as if they're Nazis. The Nazis are these scumbags out there trying to prevent criminals from being arrested. They're the threat to society. They're the danger. And it shows you the complete difference between a conservative and the lunatics on the left. We adhere to the rule of law, whether we like it or not. If we're unhappy with it, we seek office. We seek to put people in office. We seek to change the law to remove this nonsense. We have Donald Trump. Diversity, equity, and inclusiveness is racism, bigotry, hatred of white male Americans and white Americans in general. That's what DEI is there for. It's meant to impoverish white people in this country and destroy a structure in society that they believe is set up against the rest of society, which it's not. It's utter nonsense. We have favoritism for Black Americans with affirmative action for 50 years, which is unconstitutional. That violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, which was expressly brought into the Constitution for the freed slaves to make sure they had the equal rights everyone else. And it's being used against majority population. Now, these people are evil. We seek to change it. We elected someone who eliminated in government. We seek English to be our national language, even though many of us come from backgrounds that weren't English speaking. We've adopted it. We've accepted it. It is a lingua franca of the world. We expect to be our national language. Donald Trump has instituted that, at least in government. We are getting what we paid for. We are getting what we voted for. They don't like that. They're sore, bitter, angry, vile, repulsive human beings. And all of them should move to Ottawa forthwith.
Yep. move the Great White North there, my friend. Take care of you.
So we've got a U.S. asylum judge caught on video getting a $50,000 bribe. I saw that. Yeah. And also that judge is involved. And also it's not even American. It's a naturalized citizen. Why are naturalized people allowed to be judges? I've never understood that.
Shouldn't be allowed to be president. Obviously, they're not. Vice president shouldn't be allowed to be judges at any level. Member of Congress. I don't think. No, not at all. Even the ones that are Republican right now who've come here and done the right thing. I don't think they should be in a public office as well, especially at that level.
So here's another interesting tidbit tonight. Long overdue. Not for marrying her brother, but Ilhan Omar is now under investigation by the U.S. government for the $30 million fortune that she has. How does she amass $30 million on a $172,000 a year salary?
Yeah, and her husband, I guess prior to Congress, they had a small little company. They had just a few $1,000, and then within a year, it's $30 million from like $54,000 on their books that they could count for to $30 million.
Well, I mean, Todd, that's possible. I mean, all you have to do is found a Leering Center.
Yeah, a Leering Center. Yeah, right. A number of Leering Centers. I think there's going to be a lot of people, and I talked about this before we went on air to somebody. I said, Donald Trump does not need to give up or let up like he did in the first term. Whenever he let Hillary Clinton, the Clintons off the hook. They need to make sure that these people pay the full price.
Well,
no deals.
On that front, John, a lot of us are not happy with the lack of movement from the Justice Department against the criminals who silenced our speech in the White House, in the CDC, NHI, and in the National Security Council during the first term. We've seen no indictments, no criminal case against them. We also see no movement against the fake January 6th commission people and what they did. We've seen no movement in what's happened in Minneapolis. A lot of us are disappointed in what's going on. I don't know that I'm disappointed in Pam Bondi, but I'm certainly disappointed in the Department of Justice. More people are more concerned about going after the stolen election in 2020. That's not a particular interest to me. We can't re-adjudicate that. I want the people who are committing crimes against this nation, against American citizens, violating our First Amendment rights, to feel the full wrath of the law. And Pam Bondi doesn't appear that the Justice Department's doing anything. John, are you seeing anything there?
No, you're right. That's a complaint by many. And somebody brought up a good point on X one time. They made a statement that it's possible Donald Trump had seen how they ignited his base when they used lawfare against him. And that because we are now in a midterm election or going into a midterm election here, that the concern is if they start making arrests against the left, maybe you might excite their base and create favor for them in ways. It might turn it in ways of saying it's lawfare. So it's possible maybe they're stalling on that, just building cases. And then after these elections, we secure our House, we secure our Senate, and then go after them hard for the final 2 years of Trump's administration. Possible tactic. It's logical anyway.
Well, I'm not sure if that's the case. But we'll see going forward what happens. A lot hinges on the midterms, and they're not that far away, guys. November is only 10 months from now, and it'll be here before you know it. And we'll see what happens. So on that note, Todd, what are your thoughts? Because we talked last week with our guest about this. What do you think about the Republicans retaining the House and or the Senate? Chances good, bad, even money?
They can't get out of their own way at the same time. Democrats keep screwing up, and it's Republicans go right along with them in so many things. So can they get out of their own way? Can we put up good candidates? And will people show up to vote? That's the biggest thing. Are people going to show up and be motivated to vote? I mean, that's the big part of it here.
Midterms aren't as strong as open elections.
That's true. That's true. And people need to show up in the primaries as well. If not, the same old same's going to walk back in.
Yeah, you're right. We need to secure the House and the Senate to see this through with Trump. Yeah. If we don't, there's going to be a lot stronger opposition to it. We're not going to see things.
Because if they get the House and Senate, it's going to be impeach, and slow roll till he's out of office, and it'll be over.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But guys, I need to go file my paperwork for my Pennsylvania Leering Center. I want to get it started here. I'm going to house it for refugees from South Africa, and we'll be raking in the dough as we wrap up this week's program. Next week, hopefully we'll have an update on what the Greenland settlement is and where we go from here as we enter the second year of the Trump presidency with great hope and great fanfare for all the things that have been accomplished in year one. Guys, any final thoughts? I think we're almost up against the window there, John.
Somebody's asking who'd be a good pick for president after Trump's term is over. And I think we got a lot of good people that might be up for grabs. A lot of people are looking at JD Vance.
I'm kind of biased. I think Chris Wyatt's a good choice.
Chris Wyatt is an excellent choice.
He served as viceroy of Greenland, for crying out loud. So
exactly.
We got to give him that.
I've got the gravitas
in absentia. He's viceroy in absentia.
Marco Rubio.
My final thought is keep going after the folks in Rochester. I think there's a bigger story there. I think it has national implications, and who knows? Maybe Fox News will pick it up. Who knows? I hold out hope.
Well, that'd take a lot of hope there. Maybe we can get the old man Bill O'Reilly interested.
You could probably reach out to Bill. Renee's right there in New York. You might go sit down and talk to him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week, folks. So we do appreciate all our viewers and our listeners on WSM over the airwaves and those who watch us on the internet. And we really do appreciate you tuning in here. So, John, this whole situation with Greenland has really got the Europeans in a tiz. And I know we're about to run out here, but are you surprised at all, or do you find it entertaining in any way?
It's somewhat entertaining, not at all surprised. Like I said earlier, I think that's Donald Trump's motivation. Get them riled up and let them wear themselves out.
Well, there you go. Let's get them all riled up, folks. And with that, we're all excited. We'll see you next week. God bless from New Hampshire, East Tennessee, and Central Pennsylvania. We'll see you next week.